My name is Natalie Brooks. I'm 33 years old. And 8 years ago, my parents helped my younger sister take the man I thought I was going to marry. They did not call it betrayal. My mother called it a correction. My father called it better for the business. My sister Lauren said nothing at all. She stood beside Daniel at my parents' anniversary dinner, with his hand resting against the small of her back, wearing the cream-colored dress I had helped her choose 3 days earlier. By the time dessert arrived, my relationship was over. My place in the family company had been reduced to a desk in the back office, and my mother had already decided how I was supposed to behave, gracefully, quietly, without embarrassing anyone. Years later, Lauren called me 17 times in one morning. I counted every missed call because counting was what I did when I needed my hands to stop shaking. 17 calls, 4 voice messages, 1 text that said, "Please, Natalie. He's gone. Dad could lose the house." I don't know what I signed. By the end of that week, my sister would sit across from me in a locked boardroom and beg me to hide the truth. My parents would finally understand that the daughter they had pushed outside the picture was the only person who knew where every missing dollar had gone. And Daniel would learn that erasing my name from the family did not erase the records. But I need to back up, because this did not begin with 17 missed calls. It began with a chair no one thought I would notice had been moved. Quiet people are often mistaken for weak people. We hear that so often it starts to sound like a line written for coffee cups, but I learned the difference early. Weakness gives in because it has no choice. Quiet is often a choice. Sometimes it is the only way to see the whole room before anyone realizes you have been watching. If you have ever been expected to accept a family decision simply because everyone else had already agreed on it, tell me where you are watching from. And stay with me, because the worst part was not that they chose my sister. It was how long they had been preparing me to believe I deserved it. I grew up in Cedar Ridge, Ohio, a town that was large enough to have 3 grocery stores and small enough for people to know when your father bought a new truck before he drove it home. My parents owned Brooks Home Furnishings, a regional furniture business that my grandfather had started in 1978 with 1 delivery van, a rented warehouse, and a handwritten promise to my grandmother that he would never borrow money he could not explain. By the time I was born, the company had 2 showrooms. By the time Lauren was born, it had 4. By the time I turned 16, it had become the kind of business people in town treated like an institution. We sponsored youth baseball. We supplied chairs for the library renovation. Our logo appeared on the scoreboard at Cedar Ridge High School in blue letters that always looked slightly crooked after it rained. My father, Richard Brooks, ran operations. My mother, Cynthia, ran everything people could see. That was the difference between them. Dad cared about trucks arriving on time, warehouse damage, delivery routes, fuel prices, and whether a sofa could fit through a customer's front door without taking off the hinges. Mom cared about ribbon cuttings, showroom lighting, photographs in the local paper, which charity table we bought at the hospital gala, and whether Lauren's hair looked right in the company Christmas card. My mother never raised her voice when she wanted to hurt someone. She did not need to. She could rearrange a room with 1 sentence. Lauren was 3 years younger than me and had the kind of face strangers remembered. Large brown eyes, thick dark hair, a smile that looked effortless even when I had watched her practice it in a bathroom mirror. When we were children, people called her sparkling. They called me sensible. Lauren received compliments. I received responsibilities. At 12, she was allowed to sit at the front desk and hand out candy to customers. At 12, I spent Saturday mornings in the stockroom counting lampshades because the inventory report was wrong. At 14, Lauren modeled bedroom sets for a newspaper advertisement. At 14, I learned how to reconcile delivery receipts against purchase orders because Dad's assistant had quit without notice. At 16, Lauren got a white Jeep for her birthday. At 16, I received my grandfather's old adding machine, a gray metal box with stiff cream-colored buttons, and a paper roll that smelled faintly of dust and ink. I loved it. That probably tells you more about me than anything else could. My grandfather, Walter Brooks, was the first person who understood that I did not mind being quiet. He never tried to pull words out of me to make himself comfortable. He simply paid attention. He noticed that I remembered the price of every item in the showroom. He noticed that I could look at a stack of invoices and find the one number that did not belong. He noticed that I counted stairs when I was nervous. There were 13 steps from the warehouse office to the loading floor, 9 from the back entrance to the accounting room, 22 from my grandfather's workbench to the locked records cabinet. I knew all of them. Grandpa Walter taught me that numbers did not become honest just because they were printed neatly. A clean page can carry a dirty lie, he told me once. I was 15. He had placed 2 supplier invoices in front of me. They looked almost identical. Same company, same order number, same type description for 6 oak dining tables. One invoice was for $4,060. The other was for $6,580. He asked me which one was real. I compared the dates, the delivery signatures, the tax rate, and the handwriting beside the warehouse stamp. It took me 11 minutes. The expensive one was changed, I said. He did not smile. Grandpa was not a man who handed out praise quickly. He nodded once and said, "Keep a copy." That was how the brown folder began. It was nothing special. Thick cardboard, metal fasteners, a dark coffee stain near the bottom corner. The label had once said warranty claims, but Grandpa crossed it out and wrote record in black marker. Inside it, he kept examples, duplicate invoices, altered delivery notes, handwritten corrections, copies of checks that had been voided but never destroyed. Not because he expected to use them against anyone, because he believed a business should be able to explain itself. This isn't suspicion, he told me. It's memory. That sentence stayed with me. So did the folder. My parents treated my interest in accounting as useful but unimportant. Useful because someone had to do the work. Unimportant because the work happened behind a door customers never saw. At family dinners, Dad talked about expansion. Mom talked about branding. Lauren talked about events she wanted the company to sponsor. When I mentioned that freight costs had risen 12% in 6 months, Mom passed me the bowl of potatoes and said, "Not everything has to be about numbers, Natalie." Then 3 days later, she asked me why our margins were lower. That was my place in the family. I was supposed to know the answer without reminding anyone that I knew it. I was supposed to solve problems before they became visible. Once they were solved, the credit drifted upward, usually to Dad, sometimes to Lauren, always away from me. It happened so often that I stopped correcting people. At 17, I found an error in a commercial lease that would have increased our annual rent by $18,600. Dad renegotiated it. At the next staff meeting, Mom praised him for protecting the company through careful leadership. I was sitting 6 chairs away. Grandpa looked at me across the table and tapped one finger against his coffee cup. Once. That was his way of saying he saw it. At 18, I created a spreadsheet that tracked delivery damage by supplier. It showed that one manufacturer was costing us almost $4,000 a month in replacement parts and customer discounts. Dad used the report to negotiate a better contract. Lauren redesigned the cover page and presented it at a management retreat. Mom called her brilliant. I was in college by then, studying accounting at Franklin State, but I still drove home every Thursday night to help close the monthly books. The trip was 78 miles each way. I knew every gas station between Cedar Ridge and campus. I knew which one charged 6 cents more per gallon. I knew which rest stop had a vending machine that gave 2 bottles of water if you pressed the button slowly. That was where I met Daniel Reed. Not at the rest stop, at Franklin State. We met in a statistics class during my 2nd year. He arrived late on the first day, slid into the empty seat beside me, and whispered, "Did I miss anything important?" I looked at the professor, who had already filled half the board with symbols. "Yes," I said. He grinned. That was Daniel's gift. He could make you feel as though the two of you had just become allies against the room. He was 22, 1 year older than me, studying business management after changing majors twice. He had grown up outside Dayton with a mother who worked nights at a nursing home and a father who appeared only when he needed money. Daniel was ambitious in a way that looked like hunger. At first, I admired it. He talked about building something of his own. He talked about never wanting to check his bank balance before buying groceries. He talked about becoming the kind of father who showed up. Those were not grand dreams. They were ordinary and human. I trusted them. Our first date cost $14.72. 2 turkey sandwiches, 1 bowl of tomato soup, and a coffee we shared because Daniel had left his wallet in his dorm room. He offered to walk back and get it. I paid. He promised to cover the next one. He did. For almost 3 years, that was how we worked. One person carried what the other could not. When my grandfather became ill, Daniel drove me to the hospital at 2 a.m. and waited in the parking garage because only family was allowed upstairs. When Daniel failed a finance course and thought he would lose his scholarship, I helped him build a study schedule. When I worked late, he brought me noodles from the place on Grant Avenue that stayed open until midnight. When his car broke down, I lent him mine. When my mother forgot my birthday dinner because Lauren had a last-minute photo shoot for a local boutique, Daniel bought a grocery store cake and stuck 21 candles into it. There was nothing elegant about that cake. The icing was too sweet. The letters of my name ran into the blue border because he had ordered it in a hurry. I kept the plastic N from the top for years. That was the Daniel I loved, or the Daniel I believed I knew. The first time I brought him home, my mother watched him the way she watched a new sofa line, carefully, evaluating. Daniel wore a navy sweater and brought flowers, not expensive flowers, yellow grocery store tulips wrapped in clear plastic. Mom accepted them with both hands. "You didn't have to do that," she said. But her face changed. I saw it. She approved. Dad asked Daniel questions about school, work, and football. Lauren arrived late, kissed Mom on the cheek, and sat across from Daniel. She was 19 then. Daniel was 23. I was 22. Lauren had just returned from a semester abroad in Spain and spent most of dinner telling stories about Barcelona, although she had lived 40 minutes outside the city and taken classes taught in English. Daniel listened. Everyone listened when Lauren spoke. She knew how to turn ordinary events into stories that made people lean closer. A delayed train became a night stranded with strangers. A lost bag became a test of survival. A cafe owner giving her directions became an old man who had adopted her. I knew when she stretched the truth. I also knew no one cared. After dinner, Mom asked Daniel to look at the company's website because he had mentioned taking a digital marketing class. He offered a few ideas: new product photos, short customer videos, a better mobile layout. Mom's attention sharpened. "Lauren has been telling us the same thing," she said. Lauren had not. I knew because I managed the website update list. But Daniel looked at her. Lauren smiled. That was the first small connection. So small I would have felt petty naming it. On the drive back to campus, Daniel said, "Your sister has energy." I looked out the window. "She does. She could probably sell anything. She usually sells herself." He laughed. I had meant it as a warning. He heard it as a compliment. Grandpa Walter died 9 months later. It happened on a Tuesday morning in October. A clear, cold day. The kind of morning when every sound travels farther than it should. Dad called me at 6:17. I counted the rings before I answered. 3. His voice was flat. "He's gone." I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the carpet. There was a dark thread near my left foot. I remember that more clearly than I remember what I said. Daniel drove us to Cedar Ridge. At the funeral, Mom placed Lauren beside her in the receiving line. I stood on Dad's other side. People told Lauren how proud Grandpa had been of her. She thanked them. They told me he had always said I had a good head for business. Mom answered for me. Natalie has always been dependable. Dependable. A word that sounds like praise until you realize no one uses it for the person they hope will lead. After the service, Dad gave me a small cardboard box from Grandpa's office. Inside were his adding machine, 3 fountain pens, a pocket calculator, and the brown folder. There was also an envelope with my name. His handwriting looked weaker than I remembered. Natalie, numbers are not cold. They tell you where people put their care. Do not let anyone teach you to doubt what you can prove. Keep the record. Grandpa, I read it twice, then a third time. Daniel stood beside me in the empty funeral home hallway. What is it? He asked. Just a note. He reached for my hand. I let him hold it. That afternoon, my mother found me in Grandpa's office with the folder open on the desk. She looked at the old documents and sighed. I don't know why he filled your head with all of that. All of what? Suspicion. It's not suspicion. Mom picked up one of the copied invoices and placed it back down without reading it. You should learn something from Lauren. She understands that relationships matter more than being right. I closed the folder. I didn't say anyone was wrong. You don't have to say it, Natalie. You carry yourself as if you're waiting for everyone else to make a mistake. That was not true. I carried myself as if I knew mistakes happened. There was a difference. Mom walked to the office door, then stopped. Your grandfather loved you, but he made you too serious. She said it like seriousness was an illness he had passed down. Then she left. Daniel stepped into the room a minute later. He had heard enough to know something had happened. Your mom is grieving, he said. So am I. I know. But his eyes moved toward the folder. What's in there? Records Grandpa thought were important. Important how? I don't know yet. That answer seemed to bother him. Only for a second. Then he kissed my forehead and said we should go help clean up. I wish I could tell you I noticed something dark in him that day. I did not. Memory becomes arrogant after betrayal. It takes ordinary moments and paints warnings over them. At the time, Daniel was kind. At the time, I trusted him. At the time, Lauren was simply my sister. The year after Grandpa died, I finished my degree and returned to Cedar Ridge full-time. Dad offered me a job as junior accounting manager. The salary was $44,000. The title sounded better than the work. I handled payables, payroll review, inventory reconciliation, vendor disputes, insurance claims, and financial reports for all 4 showrooms. The actual accounting manager, a man named Stan Everett, worked 3 days a week and spent most afternoons asleep behind a closed office door. I did his job. He signed his name. Daniel graduated 6 months later. He did not have a job lined up. He had $23,400 in student debt, a credit card balance he refused to discuss, and a plan to move to Columbus to work for a marketing agency that had not actually offered him a position. I believed in him. So I asked Dad whether the company needed someone in marketing. Dad said no. Mom said perhaps. Lauren said, Daniel understands younger customers. She had spoken to him 3 times. Mom invited him to a planning meeting. 2 weeks later, he became brand development coordinator at Brooks Home Furnishings. His starting salary was $51,000, $7,000 more than mine. I noticed. I said nothing. Daniel noticed too. He was embarrassed for almost half an hour. Then he told me it was because his role involved growth. Accounting protects what already exists, he said. Marketing creates new money. I stared at him. He gave me a quick smile. That came out wrong. Yes. I just mean our jobs are different. They are. I'm not saying yours isn't important. He reached for me. I stepped closer because I did not want a salary to become a wound between us. That was one of my habits then. I kept deciding which hurts were too small to deserve a response. Small hurts collect. That is what no one tells you. They do not disappear because you act mature. They stack quietly until the shelf breaks. Daniel was good at his new job, at least in the beginning. He redesigned the company brochures. He hired a photographer. He suggested weekend design workshops that brought people into the showrooms. Sales increased 7% that spring. Mom praised him constantly. Dad respected results. Lauren began helping him with social media, even though she did not work for the company. She had graduated with a communications degree and spent 11 months moving between temporary jobs. Event assistant, boutique coordinator, freelance brand consultant. None lasted. But inside Brooks Home Furnishings, she moved like an executive. She came into meetings late. She interrupted employees. She changed display plans after managers had approved them. No one stopped her because she was the owner's daughter. I was also the owner's daughter. That rule somehow did not apply to me. The first chair was moved at the spring advertising meeting. I noticed because I had arranged the room. 12 chairs around the long conference table, Dad at one end, Mom at the other. Stan beside me because we were presenting the quarterly report. Daniel across from us with the campaign budget. Lauren was not on the agenda. When I entered the room after printing an extra copy of the report, my hair had been moved away from Dad's side and placed against the wall. Lauren was sitting where I had been. My notebook was still on the table in front of her. She had set her phone on top of it. I stood in the doorway for 2 seconds, then 3. Daniel saw me. "Oh," he said. Lauren needed to be closer to the screen. The screen was mounted on the opposite wall. Every chair had the same view. Lauren lifted my notebook. "Is this yours?" "Yes." She handed it to me. Mom looked at the chair against the wall. "We're already running late, Natalie." I carried the chair back to the table. The metal legs scraped against the floor. No one spoke. I placed it at the corner between Stan and the wall and sat down. That was all. No confrontation, no speech, just a chair. But something changed. During the meeting, Daniel presented a new campaign aimed at first-time homeowners. The numbers did not work. He wanted to offer 12 months of free delivery and installation on purchases over $1,500. I had calculated the average delivery cost at $284. For rural customers, it reached $430. His campaign budget assumed $120. I waited until he finished. Then I explained the gap. Daniel's face tightened. "We can absorb some cost to gain customers." "Some, yes. Not this much. The campaign will increase volume. More volume increases delivery cost." Lauren leaned back in my chair, the one she had taken. "You always focus on why something can't work." I looked at her. "I'm explaining what it costs." Mom folded her hands. "Some people are meant to support the picture, Natalie, not stand in it." The room went still. Not completely. The air vent hummed above us. A truck reversed outside. 3 warning beeps, then 3 more. I counted them because I did not trust my face. Mom continued as if she had offered normal management advice. "Daniel and Lauren are discussing vision. Your role is to help make that vision practical. My role is to tell you when the numbers are wrong. No one said otherwise." "You just did." Dad cleared his throat. That was his contribution. One sound. No words. Daniel looked down at his campaign notes. Lauren smiled with her lips closed. Stan pretended to read the report. I could have walked out. I could have asked Mom what picture she was talking about. Instead, I opened my calculator. Without changing the minimum purchase, the campaign loses an estimated $96,000 over 6 months. Dad looked at Daniel. "Fix it." The meeting moved on. Later, Daniel came into my office and closed the door. "You embarrassed me." I looked up from my screen. The cost estimate was wrong. "You could have told me privately." "You gave me the final numbers 10 minutes before the meeting." "I didn't realize delivery costs had gone up. That's why I asked for your draft last week." He paced once from the door to the filing cabinet, 5 steps, then back. You made me look unprepared in front of your father. You were unprepared. His jaw tightened. I had never seen him look at me that way. Not anger exactly, something closer to injury, as though my accuracy had been an act of disloyalty. I thought we were supposed to support each other, he said. We are. It did not feel like it. I turned my chair toward him. Supporting you does not mean letting the company lose money. It's not your company. The words landed between us. Daniel heard them too. He stopped pacing. I didn't mean that. I waited. Of course it's your family's company. That isn't what you said, Natalie. Would you have said that to Lauren? He exhaled hard. This has nothing to do with Lauren. It had everything to do with Lauren. I did not know that yet. Not fully. Daniel sat across from me and rubbed both hands over his face. I'm under pressure. So am I. Your dad expects results. He expects correct numbers, too. I know. His voice softened. That was another gift Daniel had. He knew when to stop pushing. He took my hand across the desk. I'm sorry. I let him hold it. Again. That evening, he brought home dinner from my favorite Thai restaurant. He remembered my order. Chicken pad see ew, medium spice. No mushrooms. He apologized a second time. I accepted. The next week, I rebuilt his campaign budget. We raised the qualifying purchase to $20,400, limited the delivery radius, and negotiated a lower installation rate with a local contractor. The campaign made money. At the next management meeting, Mom congratulated Daniel and Lauren for developing it. Daniel thanked her. He did not mention me. I wrote the final profit number in the margin of my notebook, 38,612. Then I underlined it once. Grandpa had taught me to keep records. He had not taught me what to do when the people you loved rewrote them in front of you. For anyone feeling that slow frustration right now, the kind that comes when your work is used but your name disappears, remember one word: folder. Put folder in the comments, because that old brown folder would later hold the one thing my family could not talk their way around. Stay with me. At that point, I still believed the problem was favoritism. I had no idea they were beginning to rearrange my entire life. Lauren started coming to the office almost every day. At first, she said she was helping with the summer showroom launch. Then she said Mom wanted her opinion on color palettes. Then Daniel gave her a temporary company email address. I found out because the system sent me an automated request to approve access. Lauren Brooks, brand consultant. Hourly rate, $45. I walked into Dad's office with the form. Did you hire Lauren? Dad glanced at it. Your mother did. For what? Marketing support? She has no contract. Then make one. What are her duties? He leaned back. Natalie, don't turn everything into a federal case. I need a job description for payroll classification. Ask Daniel. So I did. Daniel was in the showroom photographing a sectional with Lauren. They were standing close together over his camera. Not touching, just close. I waited until they finished. What are Lauren's duties? Lauren looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at me. Content strategy, he said. What does that include? Social media, events, customer engagement? How many hours? It depends. On what? Lauren crossed her arms. Why are you interrogating him? I'm setting up payroll. You already know who I am. That is not a payroll category. She laughed. Not because it was funny, because she wanted Daniel to laugh too. He did. Only a little. I looked at him. His smile disappeared. Put 20 hours a week for now, he said. At $45 an hour? That's what your mom approved. She will earn more per hour than the showroom managers. She's a consultant. Based on what experience? Lauren's face changed. Daniel stepped between us without physically moving. He did it with his voice. Natalie, just process it. Just process it. 3 words. That became the beginning of many things. Just process it. Just approve it. Just fix it. Just stay late. Just do not make this difficult. I returned to my office and created Lauren's contract. 20 hours a week, 90 days. Clear duties, required deliverables. I added a line stating that expenses over $250 needed written approval. Mom removed that line before signing. I put a copy of both versions into the folder. Not because I suspected a crime, because Grandpa had taught me that changes mattered. Lauren's first event cost $31,700. The approved budget was $18,000. She rented white couches for the showroom, even though we sold couches. She hired a string quartet. She ordered 600 miniature bottles of sparkling wine and had custom labels printed with the Brooks logo. The labels peeled off when the bottles became cold. She blamed humidity. 200 bottles remained unopened. Dad stored them in the warehouse break room until an employee reported that drivers were taking them home. The event produced 23 sales. After discounts, staffing, and returns, we lost $9,516. Mom called it a branding success. I called it a loss, not allowed. By then, I had learned the cost of using exact words in a family that survived by renaming things. Overspending became investment. Favoritism became recognizing strengths. Exclusion became keeping the peace. My mother never, lead in a way you could easily challenge. She changed the labels. That summer, Daniel and I began looking at houses. We had been together 4 years. He had talked about marriage often enough that I believed a proposal was close. He asked what kind of ring I liked. He asked whether I wanted children. He asked whether I would keep my last name. We drove through neighborhoods on Sunday afternoons and pointed at houses we could not afford. I liked old homes with deep porches. Daniel liked new construction with open kitchens and no trees. We compromised on a 3-bedroom brick house on Linden Street. It had a narrow porch, 2 maple trees, and a kitchen renovated in gray tile that Daniel loved. The asking price was $238,000. We calculated the mortgage at my dining table. I had saved $39,000. Daniel had saved $4,600. He was embarrassed. I told him it did not matter. We were building together. That was the phrase I used. Together. We planned to offer $226,000 with a $30,000 down payment. The night before we were supposed to meet the realtor, Daniel canceled. Lauren needed help with a vendor presentation in Columbus. It's Sunday, I said. The vendor is only in town for 1 day. Why does Lauren need you? She doesn't understand the technical side. What technical side? Digital displays. I looked at him across my kitchen. The mortgage papers were spread between us. You are driving 2 hours to explain television screens? He smiled, but it looked forced. It's more complicated than that. Reschedule it. I can't. We may lose the house. There will be other houses. I stared at him. He picked up his keys. Don't make this into something it isn't. What is it? Work. For Lauren. For the company. He kissed my cheek. I did not move. He left at 7:42 the next morning. I watched his car turn at the end of my street. I counted 6 seconds before it disappeared. The house sold that afternoon. $3,000 above asking. Daniel returned after 9 that night. He said the meeting went well. Lauren posted a photograph from a rooftop restaurant in Columbus. She and Daniel sat at a table beside the vendor. There were wine glasses, city lights. Lauren's hand rested on Daniel's shoulder. Not romantically. That was what I told myself. Just carelessly. I showed Daniel the photograph. He looked at it for less than a second. Her hand was there because we squeezed in for the picture. I didn't ask why her hand was there. You were thinking it. I was looking at it. He took off his jacket. This is exactly why I did not want to tell you about dinner. You did tell me. You said it was a vendor meeting. It was. At a rooftop restaurant? The vendor chose it. Why did Lauren post a picture that makes the 3 of you look like Fry? Ends on vacation? You would have to ask her. I'm asking you. He dropped his keys onto the counter. You do this thing where you ask questions as if you already know the answer. I thought of my mother. You carry yourself as if you're waiting for everyone else to make a mistake. The same accusation, almost the same words. I looked at Daniel carefully. Did my mother say that to you? What? That I ask questions like I already know the answer. His eyes moved away, only for a moment. She might have said you can be intense. My mother and my boyfriend had discussed me. Not my work. Me. When? I don't know. At the office. What exactly did she say? Natalie, stop. What did she say? She said you have trouble trusting people. I felt something cold settle beneath my ribs. And what did you say? I defended you. That was not an answer. What did you tell her? He walked toward the refrigerator, opened it, and stared inside. I said you like control. There it was. A private complaint placed in my mother's hands. Daniel and I had talked about my need to plan. I had told him it came from growing up in a house where everyone expected me to prevent problems but mocked me for seeing them. He had listened. He had said he understood. Then he had taken that piece of me to my mother and helped her sharpen it. I closed the folder of mortgage papers. We lost the house today. He shut the refrigerator. We can find another. You chose Lauren's meeting. I chose work. You chose her request over something we planned for months. It was one house. It was our appointment. I said I'm sorry. No, you didn't. He stared at me. Then he exhaled. Fine. I'm sorry. Fine. Not warm. Just fine. That was the word they used for everything that used to be love. The next morning, Daniel brought coffee to my office. He placed it beside my keyboard and kissed the top of my head. I wanted to stay angry. I also wanted my life back. So I let the apology become enough. For a while, things looked normal. That is how betrayal grows best. Not in constant darkness, in alternating light. Daniel took me to Cincinnati for my birthday. We stayed in a small hotel near the river. He gave me a silver necklace with a tiny square pendant and said it reminded him of a window. A window? I asked. You always see through things. It was a strange compliment. I wore it anyway. We spent the weekend walking, eating too much, and pretending work did not exist. He held my hand. He made me laugh. He talked about proposing before the end of the year. I believed him. On Monday, we returned to find that Lauren had moved into the office beside his. The room had belonged to the purchasing manager, who had been relocated to the warehouse. No one had told me. Lauren's name appeared on a brass plate beside the door, Director of Brand Experience. She had worked for the company for 4 months. Her salary was $82,000. I knew because I processed the paperwork. My salary was $58,500. I had been there full-time for 3 years and part-time for 6 before that. I walked into Mom's office with the salary authorization. Director, Mom continued writing. Yes. Who approved this? Your father and I. Lauren has no employees. She'll build a team. She has no operating budget. You'll help her prepare one. She does not meet the experience requirements in our own compensation policy. Mom set down her pen. This is a family business. Then why does the policy apply to everyone except family? It applies where it makes sense. Does it apply to me? Her expression softened. That was worse than anger. Natalie, your problem is that you think fairness means everyone receiving the same thing. No, I think fairness means the reason should be honest. We are being honest. Lauren has leadership presence, and I don't? You have other strengths. There it was. The careful separation. Lauren stood in the picture. I supported it. Mom leaned forward. Some people are meant to support the picture, not stand in it. The second time she said it, the line felt practiced. I wondered how often she had used it when I was not in the room. Did you say that to Daniel? Her eyes sharpened. Why would you ask me that? Because he has started speaking about my work the way you do. You are being oversensitive. Did you discuss me with him? He asked for advice. About what? Your relationship. My mother said it casually, as if my relationship belonged in her office beside vendor contracts and gala invitations. What advice did you give him? That marriage is difficult when one person always needs to be right. I counted the objects on her desk: lamp, phone, calendar, penholder, framed photograph of Lauren. 5. There was no photograph of me. Daniel came to you about marrying me? I did not say that. You said marriage. I was speaking generally. You never speak generally. Mom leaned back. You see? This is the intensity people struggle with. People. Not she. Not Daniel. People. A crowd created from 2 voices, maybe 3. I picked up the salary authorization. Should I process this? Yes. I signed the payroll review. Then I copied the document. 1 copy went into the official file. 1 went into the brown folder. Over the next 6 months, the rearrangements became harder to ignore. My name disappeared from the quarterly planning committee. Daniel said it was because the meetings had become more creative. I was removed from the company, Chris did. Emma's card. Mom said the photographer needed visual balance. Lauren began traveling with Daniel to trade shows. She said customers responded well to them as a pair. When I asked why I was no longer included in budget meetings for events I had to reconcile, Dad told me to stop worrying about rooms where I did not need to be. Then the bills arrived. I always needed to be there when the bills arrived. One Friday in November, I stayed late to finish payroll. Snow had begun falling around 5. By 7, the parking lot was white except for 2 rows of tire tracks. My car was the only one near the employee entrance. At 7:26, I heard voices in the hallway. Lauren's laugh. Daniel's lower voice. I assumed they had returned for something. I closed my spreadsheet and waited. They did not enter my office. Their voices moved toward Daniel's room. His door closed. I looked at the clock. 28. I told myself they were working. At 7:41, I heard music. At 7:53, Lauren laughed again. At 8:02, I stood. There were 9 steps from my desk to the hallway. 16 from my door to Daniel's. I counted all 25. His door was not fully closed. Through the narrow gap, I saw Lauren sitting on the edge of his desk. Daniel stood in front of her. Too close. Her knees nearly touched his legs. They were not kissing. That fact became a shelter I used long after I should have left it. They were not kissing. Lauren held a glass of wine. Daniel had one too. The bottle sat beside his computer. They had ordered food. White cartons were open across the desk. This was not an urgent meeting. It was dinner. Private, comfortable. I knocked once and opened the door. Lauren turned. Daniel stepped back. Both movements were quick. Not guilty, I told myself. Surprised. Natalie, Daniel said. I thought you left. My car is outside. Lauren took a sip of wine. We were finishing the holiday campaign. At 8 o'clock? She lifted one shoulder. Creative work doesn't keep bank hours. I looked at Daniel. You didn't answer my message. He reached for his phone. It was on silent. I asked if you wanted dinner. I didn't see it. You already had dinner. The room smelled like sesame oil and red wine. Daniel moved toward me. Stay. There's plenty. I looked at the 2 chairs, one behind his desk, one occupied by Lauren's coat and purse. No place had been set for me. I have payroll, Lauren smiled. Of course you do. 3 words. Nothing openly cruel. But I heard the meaning. Of course Natalie worked. Of course Natalie counted. Of course Natalie stood outside the room while other people lived. I returned to my office. At 8:19, they left together. Daniel knocked on my door before going. I'll call you. Where are you going? Lauren's car won't start. It's snowing. I'm driving her home. I can drive her. He hesitated. Your car is smaller. I drive in snow. Natalie. That tone. The one that told me my objection was becoming embarrassing. I looked past him. Lauren stood near the exit wearing Daniel's scarf. Not her own. His. Dark blue wool. I had bought it for him the Christmas before. She saw me looking and touched it. I'm freezing. Daniel glanced back. It's just a scarf. Just a scarf, just dinner, just work, just a moved chair. Small hurts, stacking. Daniel drove Lauren home. He called me at 9:46. I watched the phone ring once, twice, 3 times. I answered on the 4th. She got home safely, he said. Good. The roads are bad. I'm staying at your parents' guest room. My apartment is 12 minutes away. The highway entrance is closed. There were 3 routes from my parents' house to mine. Only one used the highway. I knew that. Daniel knew I knew it. Neither of us said it. I'll see you tomorrow, he said. Fine. Fine. Not warm. Just fine. The next afternoon, Mom invited us to lunch. She served tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches, the same meal she made when she wanted a conversation to appear harmless. Dad ate in silence. Lauren arrived wearing a red sweater and no sign of Daniel's scarf. Daniel sat beside me. Mom asked about the snow. Lauren said Daniel had saved her life. Dad smiled. Daniel laughed. I did not. Mom noticed. She always noticed anything that might affect the picture. Is something wrong, Natalie? I worked late. So did Daniel and Lauren. I know. Lauren placed her spoon down. Oh, please. The table went quiet. I looked at her. She continued. You have been acting strange for weeks. In what way? Watching us. Daniel shifted beside me. I felt him move away by less than an inch. Enough to notice. I walked into an office, I said. You stood outside the door. For how long? Her face changed, only slightly. She had expected me to deny it. I saw you through the gap. That is not normal. Having private dinner with my boyfriend at 8 o'clock? It was work. Then why did you close the door? For quiet. You had wine. Mom set down her napkin. Enough. Not to Lauren. To me. I looked at Daniel. He rubbed his thumb across the edge of his spoon. Say something. He looked at me then. Nothing happened. I waited. That is what you want me to say, right? I want you to say what happened. We worked. We ate. I drove her home. Why did you stay at my parents' house? The roads were dangerous. They were clear by 10. Dad spoke without looking up. He was tired. I told him to stay. One honest fact, perhaps, one more hand placed on the scale. Mom's voice became soft. Natalie, jealousy is not a good look on you. The sentence was so polished I knew she had prepared it. I'm asking reasonable questions. You are accusing your sister. I asked Daniel. You always do this, Lauren said. Do what? Turn everything into an investigation. My grandfather's folder sat in my apartment. A clean page can carry a dirty lie. Keep the record. I looked around the table and understood that they had discussed this before lunch. All 4 of them, maybe not as a formal plan. Families rarely announce the moment they form a side. They simply begin using the same words. Intense, controlling, jealous, suspicious. The words moved from my mother to Daniel to Lauren, each one polished by repetition. Dad remained quiet, which in my family was treated as neutrality. It was not. Silence always protects the person with more power. Daniel reached for my hand beneath the table. I moved mine onto my lap. Mom sighed. Some people are meant to support the picture, not stand in it. There is no shame in that, Natalie. But you cannot punish everyone because attention does not always fall on you. There it was again. Third time. A drumbeat. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I counted 7 seconds of silence before I answered. This isn't about attention. What is it about? Mom asked. I looked at Daniel. He looked tired. Not guilty. Not loving. Tired. As though I had become a problem he hoped someone else would solve. It's about knowing where I stand. Mom smiled sadly. The way people smile when they believe they have won without appearing cruel. You stand where you have always stood. At the time, I thought she meant inside the family. I would understand later. She meant behind them. After lunch, Daniel followed me to my apartment. We argued for 43 minutes. I know because I watched the clock above the stove. He told me Lauren was like family to him. I reminded him that she was my family, not his. He said I was threatened by her confidence. I said I was threatened by his secrecy. He said he did not tell me things because I reacted badly. I asked when that had started. He could not answer. Then he said something that ended the argument because it took all the air out of me. Your mother thinks you need help. I stared at him. With what? Trust. Control. Whatever this is. My mother? She's worried about you. My mother is advising you about me. She sees things you don't. I took off the silver window necklace he had given me in Cincinnati and placed it on the counter. His eyes followed it. What are you doing? I need you to leave. Natalie. Leave. You are piché, oving her point. That line almost stopped me. It was designed to. Any reaction became evidence. Anger meant instability. Questions meant control. Silence meant resentment. There was no correct way to respond once they had agreed on the story. I opened the door. Daniel stood still. 5 seconds, 6, 7. Then he took his coat. I'll call you when you calm down. I closed the door behind him. I did not hear from him that night, or the next morning. At work, his office door remained closed. Lauren's too. At 11:15, Dad asked me for a revised cash forecast. At 12:40, Mom emailed me a seating plan for the company holiday dinner. My name was at table 6. Daniel's was at table 1 beside Lauren. I looked at the chart for a long time. Then I called Mom. Why is Daniel seated beside Lauren? He is presenting the campaign results. He is attending as my partner. He is attending as an executive. He is not an executive. He will be soon. The words came too quickly. What does that mean? A pause. Small, but real. We are discussing his future. With him? With your father? And Lauren? Natalie, I am not doing this over the phone. Are you promoting Daniel? He has vision. What position? We haven't decided. Why is Lauren involved? Because brand leadership may report through her. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because the structure made no sense. Daniel had more experience than Lauren. Lauren had no management background. But hierarchy was never the point. Proximity was. Mom wanted them beside each other, at the same table, in the same photographs, inside the same picture. I looked at the seating plan again. Table 6 was near the kitchen door. The accounting staff sat there. Stan. 2 clerks. Me. Move my seat beside Daniel. We've finalized the arrangement. The dinner is 3 weeks away. The printer needs the place cards. Then print a different card. Mom's voice cooled. Do not make a public event about your private insecurity. You made my private relationship part of the seating chart. Some people know how to carry a room, and some people are expected to carry the bill. She went silent. That was the first time I had spoken back in a way she could not immediately reframe. I heard her take one breath, then another. You sound bitter. I sound accurate. She ended the call. At 1:07, Daniel entered my office. He shut the door. My promotion is confidential. Then why did my mother tell me? Because you pressured her. What position? Vice President of Growth. I stared at him. That role does not exist. It will. Reporting to Lauren, we would work together. You have been here less than 2 years. I've grown revenue. Why? The budgets I rebuilt. His eyes narrowed. Here we go. Here what goes? You needing credit? I leaned back. The room felt smaller. My work is in every report you present, and you are paid for it. So are you. He crossed his arms. This is why people hesitate to include you. People again, the invisible jury. Which people? Natalie? Name them. Your mother, Lauren. Some of the managers. Which managers? I'm not giving you a list. Because there isn't one? Because this is exhausting. He paced toward the window. 4 steps. Then back. You make everything heavy. I'm asking why my boyfriend is building a career beside my sister while excluding me from the work. You are not excluded. I'm seated at table 6. His face changed. You saw the chart. Yes. It's one dinner. It's a picture. The word left my mouth before I planned it. Daniel looked away. That told me more than an answer. My mother told you to keep me out of the main table. No. Did Lauren? No. Did you? He did not speak. The silence lasted 9 seconds. I counted. He finally said, I thought it would be easier. For whom? For everyone. Everyone except me. I opened my desk drawer and removed the brown folder. I had brought it to work after Grandpa died because some part of me felt safer knowing it was nearby. Daniel watched me place the seating chart inside. What are you doing? Keeping the record. His expression hardened. This is what I mean. You collect things. I save documents. Against your own family. It isn't against anyone. It feels like a threat. A record only threatens someone who needs the past to disappear. He stared at me. For 1 second, I saw something in his face that I had never seen before. Not fear. Calculation. He was deciding how to answer me. Then the familiar warmth returned. He sat across from me and lowered his voice. I love you. The words worked. Of course they did. 4 years do not disappear because one moment feels wrong. I love you too, I said. Then trust me. Trust me. The request sounded simple. But trust is not the absence of questions. Trust is what remains when questions receive honest answers. I did not know how to say that then, so I let him move around the desk. I let him hold me. I let him promise that the promotion was good for both of us. He said more money would help us buy a house. He said executive status would give us stability. He said Lauren was only a colleague. He said my mother respected me, even if she had trouble showing it. He said the holiday dinner seating meant nothing. I listened. I wanted to believe him more than I wanted to be right. That was the part my family never understood about me. I did not enjoy finding the wrong number. I wanted the books to balance. I wanted the story to be true. So I returned to work. I revised the cash forecast. I processed Lauren's expense report. I approved Daniel's campaign invoice. And at 5:18 that evening, after everyone else had left, I found a restaurant receipt clipped beneath Lauren's travel documents. The receipt was from Columbus. The rooftop restaurant, 2 entrees, 1 bottle of wine, 1 dessert. The vendor had paid separately. The receipt was dated the day Daniel and I lost the house on Linden Street. At the bottom, in Lauren's handwriting, were 4 words. Dinner with Daniel. Personal discussion. I read them once, then again. The company had reimbursed the entire bill. I copied the receipt. The original went back into the expense file. The copy went into the brown folder. I did not confront either of them that night. I was not ready, but for the first time I stopped asking whether I was imagining the rearrangement. I began asking how much of it had already happened. The answer came in pieces: a receipt, a calendar entry, a meeting removed from my schedule, a house we did not buy because Daniel had chosen to spend the day with Lauren. None of those things proved what I feared. Not alone. That was why I kept moving through my life as if everything could still be repaired. I told myself that people made careless choices. I told myself Daniel was overwhelmed by his new position. I told myself Lauren enjoyed attention, but would never cross that line with me. Most of all, I told myself my parents would stop it if they saw it happening. That was the lie I protected longest. The holiday dinner took place 3 weeks later at the Cedar Ridge Country Club, a low brick building beside a frozen golf course. My mother had been planning it since August. 211 guests, cream tablecloths, gold place cards, a 6-piece band from Columbus. The company spent $42,800 on one evening. Mom called it employee appreciation. Only 63 employees attended. The rest of the room was filled with vendors, bankers, city officials, charity directors, and people my mother wanted photographed beside the Brooks name. I arrived at 5:35. The dinner began at 7, but accounting had been asked to check the final vendor invoices before guests arrived. My dress was dark green, simple, knee-length. Daniel had once told me the color made my eyes look brighter. He was already there when I entered. He stood near the ballroom doors in a black suit, talking to Lauren and my mother. Lauren wore gold, not pale gold, not soft gold, the kind that caught every light in the room and returned it. She was laughing at something Daniel had said. His hand rested against her elbow. It moved away when he saw me. I noticed. He noticed that I noticed. Mom crossed the room before I could reach them. "You're late." "It's 5:35. The photographer arrived early." "No one told me." "I sent a schedule." "You sent it to the planning committee." Mom blinked. "You are on the planning committee." "No, I'm not." Her face did not change. She had either forgotten that I had been removed or expected me to act as if I had not been. "Fine," she said. "Go stand with your father. We need a family photograph." "Fine." Not warm, just fine. Dad stood near the fireplace holding a glass of sparkling water. He looked tired. The company had opened its 5th showroom 6 months earlier, and the expansion was already draining more cash than he had expected. I had warned him. He had said growth required courage. I had corrected the phrase silently. Growth required money. Courage did not pay suppliers. Lauren took her place beside Mom. Daniel moved toward the edge of the group. The photographer lowered his camera. "Closer," he said. Mom looked at Daniel. "Stand beside Lauren." I turned to her. "He isn't family." The word sounded sharper than I intended. Daniel's face tightened. Mom smiled toward the photographer. "Not yet." The room seemed to tilt, just enough for me to feel it. "Not yet." I looked at Daniel. He stared at the floor for half a second, then lifted his eyes. "What does that mean?" I asked. Mom gave a small laugh. It was a joke. No one else laughed. The photographer adjusted his lens. Dad cleared his throat. Lauren looked straight at the camera. Daniel stepped beside her. I stood on the far end beside Dad. The photographer raised his hand. "Everyone closer." Mom pulled Lauren toward her. Daniel moved with them. Dad moved slightly toward Mom. No one moved toward me. The camera flashed. Once. Twice. 3 times. I counted. In the finished photograph, there was a gap between Dad and me. Less than a foot, but visible. The family stood together. I stood near them. That picture appeared in the local paper the next week. The caption named my parents, Lauren and Daniel. It called me a company employee. No last name, no relation, just an employee. My mother said the newspaper made the mistake. The reporter later told me Mom had supplied the names herself. At 6:15, I entered the ballroom and found table 6. My place card was beside Stan's. Daniel's seat at table 1 was between Lauren and the president of Cedar Ridge Community Bank. His place card had a new title printed beneath his name: Daniel Reed, Vice President of Growth. No one had told me the promotion was official. I walked to him while guests were still arriving. When did this happen? Daniel glanced at the place card. Yesterday. You did not tell me. I plan to. When? Tonight. During the speech? Natalie, you signed the contract yesterday? His eyes moved toward Lauren, not for help, for awareness. He wanted to know whether she could hear us. Yes, he said. What is the salary? This is not the place. I process payroll. Then you'll see it Monday. What is the salary? He lowered his voice. 120. I stared at him. $120,000? Plus performance incentive. My salary was still $58,500. I thought about the late nights, the campaign budgets, the revised forecasts, the expansion analysis, the vendor negotiations. I thought about Grandpa's old adding machine on my desk. Daniel reached for my arm. I was going to tell you. I stepped back. Before or after you sat beside my sister? His face hardened. This promotion has nothing to do with Lauren. She will be your supervisor. We're equals. She is listed as Chief Brand Officer in the event program. That is ceremonial. Her salary is real. He looked toward the ballroom doors. People were beginning to enter. Natalie, please do not do this here. Do what? Create a scene. I almost laughed. My mother had moved my chair. She had moved my name. She had moved my boyfriend beside my sister, and I was the person threatening the picture. I am asking you a question. We'll talk later. Will we? Yes. You said that after Columbus. His expression changed. Only for a second. That was enough. What about Columbus? The dinner receipt. He said nothing. I saw it. It was work. Lauren wrote personal discussion. She writes nonsense on receipts. Then why did the company pay? Ask accounting. I am accounting. His mouth closed. For one brief moment, Daniel had no answer. Lauren appeared beside him. Mom needs us for the opening remarks. Us, not him, them. She looked at me. Your table is filling up. I wanted to ask her directly. I wanted to say, are you sleeping with him? But the question felt too ugly to place into the room without proof. So I looked at Daniel. Later, I said. He nodded. Lauren touched his sleeve. They walked toward the stage together. At 7:12, my mother welcomed the guests. At 7:16, Dad thanked the employees. At 7:21, Lauren introduced the new brand strategy. At 7:29, Daniel joined her on stage. They stood beneath the company logo while photographs from the year appeared behind them. New showroom openings, charity events, design workshops, trade shows, a rooftop restaurant in Columbus. The photograph appeared for less than 3 seconds. Lauren, Daniel, and the vendor, her hand on his shoulder. My stomach tightened. Daniel talked about the future. He talked about reaching younger families. He talked about building trust. He talked about the Brooks legacy as if he had inherited it. Then Lauren announced his promotion. The room applauded. My mother stood first. Dad followed. I remained seated. Stan leaned toward me. You knew about this? No. His eyebrows lifted. He said nothing else. After the speech, the band began playing. People moved between tables. Vendors congratulated Daniel. Mom introduced him to the bank president as the next generation. Lauren remained beside him. I watched from table 6. I counted the number of times someone assumed they were a couple. 4. The first was a supplier from Indiana who told them they made a strong team. The second was a city council member who asked how long they had been married. Lauren laughed. Daniel corrected him, but he did not step away. The third was the photographer. He asked them to stand closer for a picture. They did. The fourth was an elderly customer who touched Lauren's hand and said, "Your husband helped us choose our dining room set." Daniel smiled. Lauren said. He's not my husband. Not yet. My mother's words returned. I stood. There were 37 steps from table 6 to the ballroom doors. I counted each one. I had nearly reached the hallway when Dad caught up with me. Where are you going? Home. Dinner hasn't been served. I'm not hungry. He looked back toward the room. Your mother worked hard on this. So did I. Don't start. I haven't. You have that look. What look? The one that says you're keeping score. I stared at him. I am standing in a room where my boyfriend was promoted without telling me, placed beside my sister, and presented as the future of a company whose books I have been carrying for years. Dad rubbed the side of his face. This is business. No, it stopped being business a long time ago. You are overreacting. Did you know about the promotion? Yes. Did you ask Daniel whether he had told me? That is between you two. Did you know Mom was advising him about our relationship? Dad looked away. That was an answer. How long? I don't know. How long, Dad? She talks to everyone. About me? She worries. What does she worry about? That you're unhappy. I am unhappy. You always have been. The sentence landed harder than anything Mom had said. Dad saw it. His face changed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I waited for him to correct himself. He did not. The ballroom doors opened behind us. Music and laughter spilled into the hallway. Dad lowered his voice. Go back inside. Why? Because people will notice. There it was. The real family rule. Pain was acceptable. Visibility was not. I don't care. You will tomorrow. No, you will. His face became stern. You are not a child. I know. Then act like an adult. I am leaving quietly. You are embarrassing your mother. She is not here. She will know. I looked at him for 7 seconds. Then I said, that is the only thing any of you are afraid of. I walked away. Daniel called at 11:48. I was awake. I let it ring. He called again. I watched the screen light the room. On the third call, I answered. Where are you? He asked. Home. You left without telling me. You noticed? He exhaled. Can we not do this? We have been doing this for months. I had responsibilities tonight. So did I. You chose to leave. You chose not to come after me. There was silence. Music played faintly behind him. The event was still going. I could not walk out of my own promotion dinner. Exactly. What is that supposed to mean? It means I know what you chose. Natalie, I worked for this. So did I. It is not the same. No, it isn't. He lowered his voice. Lauren and your parents believe in what I can do. And I didn't? That's not what I said. I paid your rent when you lost your scholarship. I paid you back. After 2 years. I said I paid you back. I helped you finish school. I asked Dad to hire you. I rebuilt your first campaign after your numbers were wrong. I defended you when the manager said you were being promoted too fast. His voice sharpened. Do you want me to spend the rest of my life thanking you? I felt the words before I understood them. No. Because sometimes it feels like you do. I wanted you to remember who stood beside you before my family decided you looked better beside Lauren. He went silent. Longer this time. I counted. 8 seconds, 9, 10. When he spoke, his voice was calm. Too calm. You need to stop saying things like that. Why? Because they are ugly. Are they untrue? She is your sister. That isn't an answer. You are making me uncomfortable. Good. The words surprised both of us. I had spent years smoothing every hard edge. For once, I let one remain. Daniel sighed. I'm staying at your parents' place tonight. Of course you are. The roads are icy. They were salted at 9. Natalie. Fine. Fine. Not warm, just fine. I ended the call. The next morning I woke at 6:03. My phone had no messages. At 7:15 I drove to the office. The roads were clear. Daniel's car was already there. So was Lauren's. I parked near the accounting entrance and sat behind the wheel. The building looked different in Winterley, white flat gray. The Brooks logo above the loading dock had lost one corner of the letter B. Dad had said he would fix it for 6 months. I counted 12 breaths. Then I went inside. My office door was open. The brown folder was missing. At first I thought I had taken it home. I checked the bottom drawer, the cabinet, my briefcase. Then I remembered placing the seating chart inside before Daniel sat across from me. I walked to his office. He was not there. Lauren's door was closed. I knocked. No answer. I opened it. The folder sat on her desk, open. My grandfather's papers were spread across the surface. Receipts, contracts, copied authorizations, the Columbus dinner bill. Lauren stood near the window with Daniel. Neither looked surprised to see me. That hurt more than if they had jumped apart. I entered and closed the door. Why do you have my folder? Lauren crossed her arms. We needed to see what you were collecting. You took it from my office. The door was open. That is theft. Daniel stepped forward. Don't use words like that. What word should I use? We were worried. About what? The way you document everyone, Lauren said. I walked to the desk. She placed one hand on the Columbus receipt. Why did you copy this? Because the company paid for a personal dinner. It was business. You wrote personal discussion. That did not mean romantic. I didn't say romantic. Her eyes narrowed. Daniel looked at the documents. You keep copies of salary approvals. Yes. Seating charts. Yes. Private expense reports. They are company records. This is obsessive, Lauren said. I began gathering the papers. She placed her hand on the folder. I looked at it, then at her. Move your hand. Natalie. Move it. She held my eyes for 3 seconds, then lifted her hand. I placed the papers inside. Daniel stood between me and the door, not blocking it, close enough that I noticed. Your mother thinks you should take some time off, he said. I stared at him. My mother? We all do, Lauren said. All? Dad, too. You discussed my job without me. We discussed your behavior, Daniel said. My behavior. You are suspicious of everyone. I found my personal folder on Lauren's desk. That is not the point. It is exactly the point. Lauren gave a small, tired laugh. You always have to be right. I fastened the metal clips inside the folder. No, I have to be able to prove I'm not wrong. The door opened behind Daniel. Mom entered. Her timing was too perfect. She had been waiting nearby, maybe listening. She looked at the folder in my hands. Natalie, put that down. It belongs to me. Those are called company documents. They are copies. Then they belong to the company. They were given to me by Grandpa. Your grandfather is gone. The room became very still. Even Lauren looked at her. Mom continued without apology. Whatever private habits he encouraged are no longer appropriate. I held the folder against my chest. A record is not a habit. You are creating distrust. I did not take this from someone else's office. No one is attacking you. Then why are 4 people meeting about my behavior? Dad appeared in the doorway. 5 people. Of course. He looked at me, then at the folder. Let's go to the conference room. No. The word came easily. Dad frowned. This needs to be handled. It was handled when I found my property. Mom's eyes cooled. We are concerned that your feelings about Daniel and Lauren are affecting your judgment at work. There it was. The official version. Prepared, rehearsed, ready to be placed into a file. My feelings. You left an important company event, Dad said. I was not needed. You were seated with your department. I am your daughter. This is exactly what we mean, Mom said. You cannot separate personal disappointment from professional responsibility. I looked at Daniel. He did not meet my eyes. When did you tell them you wanted to end our relationship? His head lifted. Lauren's hand tightened around the edge of her desk. Mom answered first. Daniel did not say that. I kept looking at him. Did you? He swallowed. Natalie, this is not the place. That means yes. I said we were struggling. To my parents. I needed perspective. From my mother. She understands you. I almost smiled. No, she understands how to use me. Mom's face changed, only slightly. You are being cruel. I looked at Lauren. Are you involved with him? She did not answer. Dad stepped into the room. That is enough. No, I said. It isn't. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. They appeared quickly. My mother's favorite kind. Clean tears. No red face. No broken voice. Just enough moisture to change the balance of the room. I would never do that to you, Lauren whispered. I wanted to believe her. That was the humiliating part. Even then. Even with the folder on her desk. Even with Daniel beside her. Even with my entire family gathered to discuss me. I wanted her to say it clearly enough that I could go home and rebuild the lie. Then tell him to come with me, I said. Daniel looked at me. Lauren looked at him. No one spoke. I counted 5 seconds. At 6, I understood. At 7, I stopped waiting. I walked around Daniel and left the office. Mom followed me into the hall. Natalie. I kept walking. Natalie, stop. I reached my office. She entered behind me and closed the door. You are not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. You are making accusations that could damage this family. Then answer them. She folded her hands. We are trying to protect you. From what? From humiliation. The word slipped out. I saw her realize it. Humiliation caused by whom? Mom did not answer. I placed the folder into my briefcase. She watched. Some people are meant to support the picture, not stand in it. 4th time. But now I heard the whole meaning. She was not describing my personality. She was giving me instructions. Stay behind them. Hold up the frame. Do not step into view. I closed the briefcase. What picture? The company. The family. The future we have built. With Lauren and Daniel in the center. You are choosing to say that. No, you chose it. I am finally saying it. Mom's face hardened. You have always resented your sister. I have always protected her. From what? Consequences. She did nothing wrong. Then why are you here instead of asking Daniel to leave her office? Her jaw tightened. I saw the answer before she spoke. Daniel and Lauren have a natural partnership. I felt my body become very calm. Not numb. Calm. The kind of calm that comes after the last door closes. How long? They have not acted improperly. How long have you been encouraging it? That is not what I said. How long? Mom moved toward my desk. You and Daniel have been unhappy. He told you that. It was obvious. To whom? To everyone. Everyone again. The jury. The crowd. The story repeated until it became family truth. Mom lowered her voice. You bring out the worst in each other. And Lauren brings out the best? She believes in him. So did I. Not in the right way. I stared at my mother. What is the right way? She lets him lead. There it was. Simple. My competence had stopped being useful once it made a man feel small. My questions were not the problem. The answers were. I had helped Daniel stand. Lauren made him look tall. Mom continued. You need someone who appreciates your seriousness. And Daniel needs someone who doesn't notice when his numbers are wrong. That is unkind. It is accurate, she sighed. You confuse those things. I picked up my briefcase. Am I being suspended? No one said that. Do you want me to take time off? We think a week would help. Paid? Mom blinked. Even in the middle of my life collapsing, the payroll question unsettled her. Of course. Put it in writing. Natalie, put it in writing. She looked at me for a long moment, then said, Fine. Fine. Not warm, just fine. I left at 8:42. Daniel did not follow. That told me everything I still refused to name. For the next 6 days, I stayed away from the office. I turned off my work email. I did not call my parents. Daniel sent 11 messages. Most were not apologies. They were requests. We need to talk. Please calm down. You are making assumptions. This is more complicated than you think. Your mother is worried. Do not make any decisions while you're emotional. The last one arrived at 10:14 on Thursday night. Can I come over tomorrow? I answered with one word. Yes. He arrived Friday at 6. No flowers, no overnight bag, no nervous smile. He wore the gray coat I had given him for his birthday and carried a small cardboard box. I knew before he entered. Some truths announce themselves by the things a person brings to the door. Inside the box were a toothbrush, 2 shirts, a phone charger, and the plastic N from my 21st birthday cake. He had kept it in his desk. I had forgotten. He placed the box on my dining table. I found some of your things. My things. He sat. I remained standing. The chair across from him was 3 steps away. I did not take it. Daniel rubbed his hands together. Your parents think it would be best if I moved into the guest apartment above the old showroom. My parents think? It's temporary. Are we still together? His eyes lifted. I watched him search for the right version of the truth. I care about you. That is not an answer. We haven't been happy. I asked whether we are still together. He exhaled. I think we need space. How much? What? How much space? A week? A month? A sister? His face tightened. Do not do that. Are you sleeping with Lauren? No. The answer came quickly. Too quickly? Maybe. I still do not know whether it was true at that exact moment. Have you kissed her? He looked away. That was the answer. When? It happened once. When? After the Columbus dinner. The day we lost the house. I gripped the back of the chair. My fingers went cold. Where? In the parking garage. How long? What does that matter? How long? A few seconds. Did she kiss you? He looked at me. We both did. I counted the tiles between us. 4 across. 6 down. 24. My breathing stayed even. What did you do after? I drove her home. And then? I stayed at your parents' house. Did my mother know? No. Does she know now? He said nothing. How long has she known? Your mother understands that feelings change. I laughed once. A small sound. Not humor. Recognition. My mother knew before I did. She knew we were struggling. You told her. I needed someone to talk to. You could have talked to me. You turn every conversation into evidence. Because you lie. I did not plan this. No, my mother did. That's not fair. Was she the first person who told you Lauren was a better match? Daniel stood. This is why I can't do this. Sit down. He stared at me. I had never spoken to him that way. Sit down and answer me. He sat. Slowly, I moved to the chair across from him. There were 4 feet between us. It felt like miles. Did my mother encourage you to be with Lauren? She said I should think about what kind of life I wanted. When? Months ago. Before Columbus? Yes. Before we looked at the house? He hesitated. Yes. My mother had watched me prepare a mortgage offer while advising my boyfriend to imagine a life with my sister. I felt something inside me close, not break. Close. Did Lauren know? She knew we were having problems. We were not having problems until you started hiding things with her. That's not true. What problems did we have? You did not respect me. I helped build your career. Exactly. I stared at him. He leaned forward. You always bring that up. The rent, school, the job, the campaigns. You make me feel like everything I have came through you. Much of it did. That is not love. No, love was giving it without asking you to repay me. What you feel now is shame. His face flushed. You think you are better than everyone. No, I think I was better to you than this. He looked away. Outside, a car passed slowly over wet pavement. The sound faded. Daniel spoke quietly. Lauren makes things feel possible. And I made them possible. He looked at me again. That was the moment. The exact moment I stopped fighting for him. Not because he had kissed my sister. Not because he had lied. Because he looked at the difference between appearance and labor, and he chose the person who made the finished picture feel effortless. I had carried him through the building. Lauren stood beside him at the ribbon cutting. He wanted the photograph. Are you leaving me for her? I asked. He rubbed both hands over his face. I don't know. Yes, you do. I don't want to hurt you. That decision is gone. He reached toward me. I moved my hand. His fingers closed around air. I'm sorry. The words sounded real. That made them worse. I stood. Take the box. It has your things. Take them. Natalie. Do not leave pieces of my life in a box as if you are returning borrowed equipment. He swallowed. Then he lifted it. At the door, he stopped. I hope one day you understand this wasn't planned. I opened the door. Your promotion contract was signed before you told me. That's work. You moved into my parents' property before ending our relationship. They offered. You kissed my sister and discussed it with my mother. He looked exhausted, again, as if truth was something I was doing to him. It got complicated. No, it got organized. He left. I closed the door, then I counted the locks. One deadbolt, one chain, one small turn of the handle to make sure. 3 movements. I stood there until his footsteps disappeared. I did not cry immediately. I washed the 2 coffee cups on the counter. I folded the blanket on the sofa. I moved the chair he had used back under the table. Then I sat on the kitchen floor and cried so hard I could not make a sound. There are people watching who know this kind of pain. Not only losing someone, but learning that people you trusted held meetings about your life while you were still living it. Put one word in the comments: receipt. That small Columbus receipt was the first written crack in their story, and later it would connect to something much larger. Stay with me, because the betrayal was about to become public, and my family still expected me to help arrange the room. My parents' anniversary dinner was held 2 weeks later, 35 years of marriage. My mother had reserved the private dining room at Bellini's, the most expensive restaurant in Cedar Ridge. 14 guests, family only. I almost did not go. Dad called me 3 times. He left one message. Your mother wants everyone there. Not I want you there. Not we miss you. Your mother wants the picture complete. I decided to attend because I wanted the uncertainty to end. Daniel had not contacted me since leaving my apartment. Lauren had sent one message. I'm sorry you're hurting. Not I am sorry for what I did. Not I should have told you. She had positioned herself beside my pain, not inside its cause. I arrived at 6:58. Dinner began at 7. The host led me through the restaurant. I heard my family before I saw them. Lauren's laugh, my mother's voice, the scrape of chairs. When I entered the private room, everyone was seated, everyone except me. There was one empty chair near the end of the table beside Aunt Paula. My mother sat in the center, Dad beside her, Lauren across from them, Daniel beside Lauren. His hand rested against the small of her back. The image was so exact, so complete, that for 1 second it did not look real. Lauren wore the cream dress I had helped her choose. 3 days earlier, before I knew the purpose of the dinner, she had sent me photographs of 2 dresses. Cream or blue? I had answered cream. It suited her. Daniel wore the tie I had bought for our Cincinnati weekend, dark green, the color of my holiday dress. My Mathia stood. Natalie. Every face turned toward me. 14 people, 28 eyes. I counted because counting kept me standing. Dad looked down. Aunt Paula pressed her lips together. My cousin Owen stared openly at Daniel's hand. Lauren stood. Her face was pale. Natalie, we wanted to tell you privately. I looked around the private dining room. This is private? Mom stepped between us without moving from her place. We did not want rumors. Daniel removed his hand from Lauren's back. Too late. What are you announcing? I asked. My voice sounded calm. I was grateful for that. Lauren looked at Daniel. He looked at my mother. My mother answered. Daniel and Lauren have decided to move forward together. Move forward. A phrase clean enough to hide every dirty step behind it. How long? Mom sighed. We are not going to conduct an interrogation. I looked at Daniel. How long? He stood. We started seeing each other after we ended. We ended 2 weeks ago. No one moved. Daniel's silence filled the room. Lauren spoke softly. Our feelings had been changing for a while. Your feelings? I didn't want this. Did you kiss him in Columbus? Her face changed. Mom looked at Daniel. Dad closed his eyes. Aunt Paula whispered, Oh, God. Lauren's voice became thin. He told you. I asked. It was one mistake. And after the mistake, we tried to stay away from each other. They had worked in connected offices, traveled together, eaten together, sat together. My parents had promoted them into the same level of the company. Stay away. Another label. Another lie. I looked at Mom. You knew. She folded her hands on the table. I knew there was a connection. You encouraged it. I encouraged honesty. I felt something cold rise through me. You advised my boyfriend to consider my sister. I advised Daniel not to enter a marriage that would make both of you miserable. He asked me about rings. Mom's face did not change. He was confused. You helped him become confused. Natalie. Dad finally spoke. Sit down. I looked at him. Did you know? His eyes moved toward Mom. That was enough. How long? He rubbed his jaw. A few months. A few months. While I fixed the company's cash flow. While I rebuilt Daniel's budgets. While I helped Lauren choose a dress. While I waited for a proposal. My father had known. He had eaten dinner with me, asked me for reports, told me not to embarrass my mother. And he had known. I looked at the empty chair near Aunt Paula, the one placed far from Daniel and Lauren, another moved chair, another room arranged before I entered. Mom's voice softened. We hoped you would accept this with dignity. I looked at her. Dignity. You are hurt. We understand. No, you managed it. That is unfair. You promoted him. You built a position for Lauren. You placed them together at events. You advised him about leaving me. You prepared this dinner. We did what was best for the family. The family. And the business, Dad said. The room went silent. Mom looked at him sharply. That part had not been meant for me. I turned toward Dad. What does the business have to do with who Daniel sleeps with? Lauren flinched. Daniel said, Watch it. I looked at him. Do not correct my language while sitting beside my sister. Dad spoke again. Daniel and Lauren work well together. They represent where the company is going. And I don't. You have an important role. What role? Mom answered. You make things work behind the scenes. I almost smiled. There it was. The truth they had been walking around for years. Lauren and Daniel would stand in the picture. I would support it. Mom reached for the wine bottle. Some people are meant to support the picture, not stand in it. Fifth time. The line landed differently now. Not cruel, clarifying. I looked at her hand around the bottle. Her wedding ring caught the light. 35 years of marriage. 35 years of rearranging rooms until she stood at the center. I stepped toward the table. For years, you said that as if standing behind you was where I naturally belonged. Mom's face tightened. This is not the time. It is the exact time. I looked at Lauren. You did not take him from me. Her eyes filled. I continued. He walked. You opened the door. Mom showed him where to stand. Daniel's face flushed. That is not fair. Fair stopped mattering when all of you held the meeting without me. I turned to Dad. You said this was better for business. He lowered his eyes. Tell me how. Natalie, Mom warned. No, let him say it. Dad looked at the relatives around the table, then at me. Lauren is comfortable with people. So am I. She has public presence. And I have the financial knowledge keeping the company open. No one denies that. Then why is she chief brand officer? Dad did not answer. Why is Daniel vice president? He has ideas. I make his ideas affordable. Mom stood straighter. This is your sister's future. It was mine first. The sentence came out quieter than everything else. Lauren began crying, real tears this time. Her shoulders shook. Daniel placed a hand on her back. The same hand. The same image. My mother moved around the table and reached for me. I stepped away. Do not touch me. Her face became wounded. Performative. Perfect. We love you. No. You rely on me. That is a terrible thing to say. It is an exact thing to say. I opened my handbag and removed a white envelope. I had prepared it that afternoon. 1 page. My resignation. Effective immediately. I placed it on the table beside Dad's plate. His face changed. What is this? You said Lauren and Daniel represent where the company is going. I looked at them. Let them take it there. Dad opened the envelope. His eyes moved quickly down the page. You cannot resign without notice. I can. We have payroll next week. Stan is the accounting manager. Stan doesn't know the system. Then perhaps he should not have the title. Mom shook her head. You are punishing 200 employees because your relationship failed. The company has 63 employees. She blinked. Even now, she did not know. I have prepared transition notes, I said. The files are organized. The passwords are in the sealed office packet. I did not remove company records. Dad looked at me. You planned this? Yes. For how long? Since you suspended me for noticing what all of you were doing. We did not suspend you, Mom said. You told me to take paid leave because my judgment was affected. That was for your own good. No, it kept me out of the office while you finalized their promotion and this announcement. Mom's silence confirmed it. I looked at Daniel. He appeared less confident now. The idea of me leaving had become real. Natalie, he said, you do not have to quit. I almost laughed. Why? Worried about your next budget? His face hardened. I can do my job. Then do it. Dad stood. We are not accepting this. You do not have to accept a resignation. You signed an employment agreement. I reviewed it before writing the letter. 30 days applies to officers. I am not an officer. That was the cost of keeping my title small. They had never imagined it might free me. Dad's face turned red. We can discuss this tomorrow. No. You are upset. I am finished. Mom's voice became low. If you walk out now, do not expect us to clean up the consequences. I looked at the table, at the cream dress, the green tie, the empty chair, the anniversary cake waiting on a sideboard. I looked at my family and finally understood that I had spent years cleaning up consequences they created. "I won't," I said. Then I left. No one followed me. Not Dad, not Lauren, not Daniel. Aunt Paula texted 20 minutes later. "Are you safe?" It was the first question anyone asked that night that had anything to do with me. I answered yes. Then I drove home. The next morning, Dad called at 6:12. I let it ring. He called again at 6:19, then 6:31. At 7:05, Stan called. At 7:08, the payroll clerk called. At 7:17, Daniel sent a message. "We cannot access the vendor forecast." I stared at it. Not "I'm sorry." Not "Are you okay?" The forecast. I had left instructions in the transition packet. Page 4. I answered with that. Page 4 of the packet. He replied 2 minutes later. "What packet?" I closed the message. By noon, I had 9 missed calls. By Monday, 26. The company did not collapse because I left. That would have been dramatic. Real consequences are slower. They begin with inconvenience, a report no one understands, a payment sent twice, a tax deadline placed on the wrong calendar, a vendor who stops offering patience because the person who always returned his call is gone. Dad hired a temporary accountant. She lasted 6 weeks. Stan retired suddenly, citing health reasons. Lauren hired a software consultant who charged $18,500 to migrate records into a new system, then discovered the old records had not been reconciled. Daniel called me once to ask where I kept the supplier rebate schedules. I told him they were on the shared drive. He said he could not find them. I told him to search the word rebate. He said I was being difficult. I ended the call. My mother left 3 voice messages during the first month. The first was angry. The second was wounded. The third sounded calm enough to be dangerous. Family should not abandon family over a man. I listened twice, then deleted it. She had reduced the entire betrayal to my inability to get over a boyfriend. Not their planning, not the public announcement, not the career arrangement, not the years of using my work while shrinking my place. A man. That was how she made herself innocent. I found work in Columbus. Not immediately. For the first time in my life, I had no office to enter on Monday morning, no payroll to close, no supplier calls, no family emergency waiting behind a door. The silence felt wrong. I rented a small apartment above a bakery on West Broad Street. Every morning at 4, the smell of bread came through the floorboards. I slept badly. I cried at strange times, in the cereal aisle, at traffic lights, once in a hardware store because I saw the same blue scarf Lauren had worn. I did not feel strong. That part matters. Leaving did not make me fearless. It made me unemployed, heartbroken, and alone in a city where I knew 3 people. Strength came later, in small decisions. I updated my resume. I enrolled in the certification courses I had postponed because the company always needed me. I studied for the Certified Fraud Examiner exam at a library table beside a window that leaked cold air. I worked temporary accounting jobs, a dental supply company, a trucking firm, a nonprofit housing office. The work was not glamorous. It was mal. Intiosa. At the trucking firm, I found a billing pattern that had cost the company $74,000 over 18 months. A dispatcher had been submitting fuel reimbursements for drivers who no longer worked there. The owner brought in an outside forensic accounting firm. The senior investigator was a woman named Evelyn Price. She was 58, wore plain black shoes, and asked questions slowly enough that people filled the silence for her. She reviewed my notes. Then she asked who trained me. My grandfather. Was he an accountant? No. Furniture salesman. She smiled. He taught you better than some universities. Evelyn offered me a position 3 months later. Junior forensic analyst. Starting salary, $67,000, more than I had earned after years at my family's company. She did not call me dependable. She called me precise. The first time she said it, I went to the restroom and cried. Not because it was emotional, because respect felt unfamiliar enough to hurt. I worked under Evelyn for 5 years. I learned how people hid money, not movie criminals, ordinary people. Managers who changed a vendor address by 1 digit, owners who paid personal bills through company accounts, partners who created fake consulting firms, children who signed their parents' names, spouses who claimed not to understand the documents they had signed. Most fraud was not clever. It survived because no one wanted to embarrass the person doing it. Evelyn taught me that politeness could become permission. People think truth arrives like a hammer, she told me during my first major investigation. It usually arrives as a stack of paper no one can explain. I thought of Grandpa. Keep the record. I carried his brown folder with me to every apartment. I never used it. Not then. Inside were the old receipts, contracts, salary approvals, and my resignation copy. The past, memory, not a weapon. I did not follow my family's business closely. I heard things through Cedar Ridge. Lauren and Daniel married 11 months after the anniversary dinner. My parents hosted the wedding at a vineyard outside Cincinnati. 280 guests. A local magazine featured it. The headline called them the next generation of Brooks Home Furnishings. I did not attend. Aunt Paula sent me one photograph, Lauren in lace, Daniel in black, Mom between them, Dad near the edge. I looked at it for 4 seconds, then deleted it. They opened 2 more showrooms. They bought advertisements on local television. Daniel appeared in commercials beside Lauren. They stood in staged living rooms and promised customers that home should feel honest. The first time I saw the commercial, I turned off the television. The second time, I watched the whole thing. By the third, I felt nothing. That was not forgiveness, it was distance. Distance is quieter. My father called once a year on my birthday. The calls lasted less than 5 minutes. He asked about work. I answered generally. He said Mom was doing well. I did not ask. He never apologized, but in the 4th year, after a long silence, he said, "You were right about the 5th showroom." I waited. He continued, "We should not have opened it when we did." It was the closest he had come to admitting I had known anything. What happened? Nothing we can't handle. That phrase. The family prayer. Nothing we can't handle. What do you need? I asked. He went quiet. I didn't call for anything. You mentioned the showroom. I was making conversation. Dad never made conversation about numbers. I waited. He said, Daniel is aggressive about expansion. And Lauren? She supports him. Of course she did. Are the books clean? I asked. The silence changed. I should go, he said. Dad, we're fine. He ended the call. 2 months later, a former warehouse manager named Peter Holt contacted me through my work email. Peter had worked at Brooks Home Furnishings for 19 years. He was not emotional. He was not a gossip. His message contained 6 lines. Natalie, I'm sorry to bother you. I left Brooks last week. Several vendors have not been paid, but the system shows payment dates. Retirement deductions were late twice. Daniel blamed accounting. I thought you should know because some records still show your old username. Peter, I read the message 3 times. Then I called him. He answered from his truck. Rain hit the windshield behind his voice. What do you mean, my old username? Approvals. What approvals? Inventory transfers, vendor changes, a few electronic payments. My account was closed when I resigned. That's what I thought. Do you have copies? No, I saw your initials in the audit history. Did you report it? To Daniel. What did he say? He said the system carried old templates. That is possible. I did not believe it. Not completely. But possible mattered. Why did you leave? Peter was silent for a moment. They asked me to sign off on furniture that never reached our warehouse. How much? About 200,000. Which supplier? Northbridge Imports. I did not recognize the name. Did you sign? No. What happened? They said my position was being restructured. Who said? Lauren. I closed my eyes. What do you want me to do? Nothing. I just thought you should know. Why? Peter's answer came quietly. Because your grandfather would have wanted someone to keep the record. After the call, I opened the brown folder. The cardboard had softened with age. The coffee stain remained near the corner. I found the old Columbus, receipt, dinner with Daniel, personal discussion. Beneath it was a vendor authorization Daniel had signed during his first year at the company. His signature had changed over time, but the way he formed the letter D remained the same. Sharp vertical line, wide loop. I closed the folder. I could not investigate my family based on a former employee's concern. I had no authority, no access, no current records. And part of me feared that reaching toward the company would pull me back into the life I had fought to leave. So I did nothing. For 6 weeks. Then a second person contacted me. Mia Franklin, a former payroll clerk. She said employee retirement contributions had been deducted but deposited late. Once by 9 days. Once by 23. Daniel had instructed her to change the report date. She refused. She was fired for performance issues. I asked whether she had documents. She had screenshots. I told her to preserve them and speak to an employment lawyer. I did not give legal advice. I gave her the name of someone our firm had worked with. Then I called Dad. He answered on the second ring. Is the company using employee deductions for operating cash? Silence. Who told you that? Is it true? We had a timing issue. That is not an answer. It was corrected. How many times? Natalie. How many? Twice. Who authorized it? We are handling it. Was it Daniel? Dad breathed into the phone. You left. The word surprised me. What? You chose not to be part of this company. I chose not to watch you hand my life to Lauren. This is exactly why I don't call. Because I ask questions? Because you always need to prove that leaving was right. I stood at my office window. Below me, traffic moved along High Street. Red lights, white lights, orderly from a distance. I do not need the company to fail for me to have been right. Then stop waiting for it. I am trying to warn you. We don't need your warning. Someone is using my old username. Dad went silent, not surprised. Silent. You knew. I don't know what you're talking about. Close the account. It was closed. Then why does it appear in current approvals? Old records carry forward. That is not how the system works. We changed systems. Who has administrator access? Natalie, enough. Dad, we're fine. He ended the call. 3 days later, an envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. I did not know the handwriting. You should see what your name is approving. I did not open the drive. Not on my computer, not alone. I took it to Evelyn. She read the note, then looked at me. Family company? Yes. Do you have authorization to view the data? No. Then we do not open it. I know. You sound disappointed. I'm scared. That is different. She placed the drive into an evidence envelope. Send it to counsel. Our firm's attorney reviewed the situation. He advised that we should not access unknown company data without clear permission. The drive remained sealed. I documented the date received. The note, the envelope, the chain of custody, a record. Then my father called. Not on my birthday, not on a holiday. At 10:22 on a Tuesday morning. I sent you something, he said. I looked at the sealed envelope in my desk. The flash drive? Silence. Yes. Why anonymously? Your mother checks the mail log. The company has a mail log? For outgoing courier items. Why did you use my old apartment address? I found it in an old file. I had moved 2 years earlier. The envelope had been forwarded. What is on it? Archived financial reports? Current? Some. Do I have permission to review them? Dad exhaled. I am chairman. That is not what I asked. You have my permission. Send it in writing. Natalie. Send an email from your company account stating that you are authorizing me and my firm to review the specific data on the drive. I can't involve your firm. Then I will not open it. This is family. No, it is a company. He went silent. I waited. What do you think is happening? I asked. I don't know. Then why send records? Because I don't trust the reports anymore. The sentence was so quiet I almost missed it. My father, the man who had told me not to keep score, had finally looked at the numbers and realized they were no longer telling him the truth. What changed? The bank rejected a credit request. How much? 3 million. For what? Inventory and refinancing. Why? They said our debt ratio was higher than the reports showed. Who prepared the reports? Daniel's finance team. Where is the accounting manager? We've had turnover. How much? 4 managers in 5 years. I closed my eyes. Does Lauren know you sent the drive? No. Does Daniel? No. Does Mom? No. 5 years earlier, Dad had known about all of them meeting without me. Now he had begun meeting without them. That was not justice. It was fear. Send the authorization, I said. He did. At 11:06, an email arrived from his company account. It stated that Richard Brooks, chairman and co-owner of Brooks Home Furnishings, authorized Price Cole Forensic Accounting to review the archived and current financial records supplied on the drive for the limited purpose of identifying reporting inconsistencies, unauthorized access, and potential internal control failures. Evelyn read it. Then she looked at me. You cannot lead this review. I know. You are too close. I know. You can assist with historical systems and family structure. I nodded. She assigned the lead to a partner named Marcus Cole. Marcus was 61, patient, and nearly impossible to impress. He opened the drive in a controlled review room with our counsel present. There were 8,412 files. Bank statements, general ledgers, payroll records, vendor lists, loan applications, internal emails, system audit logs. The first irregularity appeared in less than 40 minutes. My old username had been reactivated 14 months after I left. N. Brooks. The account approved vendor changes, journal entries, and inventory transfers. The access originated from Daniel's office computer. The account was used 187 times over 4 years. I stared at the audit log. Date, time, user, action. A clean page carrying a dirty lie. Marcus leaned back. Could anyone else access his computer? Yes. Who? Lauren. Assistants. IT. Was your password known? The original one might have been in a transition packet. Did you authorize reactivation? No. Did you work for the company during any of these dates? No. He pointed to the screen. Then someone needed a name with authority and no daily presence. My name. The daughter who had left. The accountant people remembered. The employee no one saw. A perfect ghost. The next irregularity involved Northbridge Imports. The company had paid Northbridge $2.4 million over 3 years. The registered address belonged to a mailbox store outside Dayton. The phone number forwarded to an answering service. The owner listed on the company filing was a man named Caleb Reed, Daniel's cousin. Northbridge billed Brooks Home Furnishings for imported furniture. Some shipments existed, many did not. Purchase orders had been approved under my username. Warehouse confirmations used Peter Holt's electronic signature. He had said he refused to sign. The system said he had. Marcus traced payments from Northbridge to 2 related entities. One paid consulting fees to Daniel, the other purchased a lake house titled in Lauren's name. The house had cost $612,000. Public photographs showed my parents attending a summer party there. I remembered Dad mentioning that Daniel and Lauren had bought a place through Smart Investments. Another label. Another lie. We reviewed 18 months first, then 3 years. The losses were not simple. Some transactions were legitimate, some were inflated. Some were designed to move cash between companies until the original source became difficult to see. Daniel had not taken every dollar for himself. That would have been easier. He had used company money to cover expansion losses, personal spending, loan payments, and image, television ads, luxury vehicles, the lake house, private travel listed as vendor development, a $19,400 watch listed as an executive recognition award. Lauren had signed dozens of documents, some clearly, some electronically, some without reading. Her name appeared on loan guarantees, vendor agreements, and financial statements. My mother had approved marketing expenses routed through a charity foundation she controlled. The foundation paid for gala tables, travel, clothing, and event decor. Dad's signature appeared on refinancing documents that used his home as collateral. He had signed. Whether he understood the full structure was another question. Marcus looked at me across the review table. This isn't one person. No. It may have started with one. Daniel. Maybe. But it survived because others benefited. I thought of my family dinner. We did what was best for the family. The business. The picture. Truth had not entered with a hammer. It had arrived in folders, bank statements, audit logs, signatures, records no one could explain. I felt no satisfaction, only grief. This was not revenge. It was a record, and the record was worse than anything I had imagined. For 3 days, I barely slept. I went home, lay down, closed my eyes, and saw columns of numbers moving across the ceiling. $2.4 million to Northbridge Imports. 187 approvals under my old username. 4 accounting managers in 5 years. 1 lake house. 1 father who had finally admitted he did not trust the reports. The figures were not the hardest part. The hardest part was remembering the people attached to them. Employees whose retirement money had been delayed. Drivers who had worked overtime during showroom openings. Warehouse staff who had been told there was no room in the budget for raises. Dad wearing the same winter coat for 6 years because he claimed the company came first. Mom spending $4,800 on a holiday dinner while vendors waited for payment. Lauren signing papers she may not have read. Daniel using my name because he knew people would believe I had approved whatever appeared beside it. On Thursday morning, Marcus called a formal meeting with our legal counsel and the bank's risk department. My father joined by video from his office. He looked older than he had during our last birthday call. The camera was positioned too low, showing the underside of his chin and the ceiling light above him. Behind his shoulder, I could see the framed photograph from the company holiday dinner. Lauren in gold, Daniel beside her, me missing. Dad cleared his throat. What did you find? Marcus did not answer immediately. He opened a folder. Not Grandpa's brown one. Akila. In black binder containing copied records, timelines, and account summaries. Mr. Brooks, before we begin, I need to remind you that our findings are preliminary. We are not making a criminal determination. We are identifying transactions and control failures that require immediate independent review. Dad's eyes moved toward me on the screen. How bad? Marcus looked at the first page. We have identified at least 3 related party vendors that were not disclosed on loan documents. One is connected to Daniel Reed's cousin. Another is registered to a former college roommate. The third shares a mailing address with a consulting company owned by Mr. Reed. Dad leaned back. That doesn't mean the work wasn't performed. No, Marcus said. It does not. My father's shoulders lowered slightly. Then Marcus continued. But several invoices appear to describe goods that were never received. Dad's face changed. How much? Confirmed so far? $486,000. Dad closed his eyes. Marcus turned another page. We also identified payments from Northbridge Imports to an entity that contributed funds toward the purchase of a property titled to Lauren Brooks Reed. The lake house, Dad said. Yes. That was their money. Some of it appears to have originated from Brooks Home Furnishings. Dad looked towards someone outside the camera frame. Is Daniel there? I asked. No. Where is he? He went to meet with the bank. Marcus glanced at me. The bank representative in our room, a woman named Elena Ortiz, shook her head. No meeting is scheduled with Mr. Reed today. Dad heard her. He looked back at the screen. He told Lauren he had a meeting. Has anyone reached him? Marcus asked. Dad picked up his phone. I'll call. Wait, Helena said. Before you do, we need to discuss preservation. Dad lowered the phone. Preservation of what? Email. Accounting systems. Mobile devices. Paper records. Security footage. No files should be deleted, altered, moved, or destroyed. Are you saying my family is under investigation? Helena's expression remained calm. I am saying your bank has obligations when financial statements may contain material misrepresentations. Dad looked at me. You involved the bank. The bank was already involved, I said. They rejected your credit request because the numbers did not match. You could have spoken to me first. You sent the drive to my firm. I sent it to you. You authorized the firm in writing. His mouth tightened. He had wanted my skill without the process that made it reliable. The same arrangement as always. Use Natalie. Keep Natalie out of sight. Marcus continued. There is another matter. Dad stared at him. The user account belonging to Natalie Brooks was reactivated after her employment ended. Dad's eyes moved back to me. I thought that was a system issue. It was not, Marcus said. The account was manually reactivated by an administrator. Who? We are still confirming access history. I knew Marcus had more. He was careful. He would not say what we could not yet prove. Dad leaned toward the camera. Natalie, I swear I did not know your name was being used. I believe you. He looked surprised. Belief did not make him innocent. It only separated what he knew from what he chose not to examine. He rubbed his forehead. What happens now? Helena answered. The bank will temporarily restrict new draws on the company's credit lines pending a full review. Dad went still. You can't do that. We can. We have payroll next Friday. The company retains access to existing operating funds. New borrowing is restricted. We need the line to pay vendors. That is one of the concerns. Dad's voice rose. Do you understand what this will do? Helena did not move. Yes. No, you don't. 60 people depend on this company. 63, I said. Dad looked at me. The number had not changed. The people were still real. Marcus closed the binder. We can help determine whether there is a path to stabilization, but that requires full cooperation. With what? Dad asked. An independent audit. Immediate suspension of related party payments. Preservation of records. Removal of administrative access from anyone connected to questionable entries. You mean Daniel. We mean anyone. Dad stared at his desk. For 14 seconds, he said nothing. I counted each one. At 15, he asked, "Can this stay private?" Helena answered before anyone else. "That depends on what the evidence shows and what reporting obligations apply." Dad looked at me again. His face held the same fear I had seen outside the country club ballroom years earlier. Not fear of what had happened, fear that people would notice. For those who have watched a family protect its image longer than it protected its people, put one word in the comments: signature. Every signature in those files told a different story about who knew, who guessed, and who chose not to ask. Stay with me, because my father's secret review was about to become a crisis no one could keep inside the family. Lauren called me that afternoon. It was the first time I had heard her voice in nearly 6 years. "Natalie?" She sounded smaller than I remembered. "Yes. Dad said your firm is looking at the company." "My firm was authorized to review records." "Why didn't you call me?" "You did not send the drive?" "I'm an officer." "Then you should speak to company counsel." She went quiet. That sentence placed a wall between us, not a cruel wall, a necessary one. "We're sisters," she said. "We are also dealin', with company records. Do you think I stole money? I think your name appears on documents you need to understand. I sign hundreds of things. That is not a defense." Her breath caught. "I didn't know. I have not told you what we found. Dad told me about Northbridge. Then talk to your attorney before speaking to anyone else." "My attorney?" "Yes." "You really think I need one?" "Yes." She began crying. I could hear her trying to control it. "Daniel isn't answering." "Where is he?" "I don't know." "When did you last see him?" "This morning. He left before 7. "Did he take anything?" "I don't know. Check passports, financial files, computers, and anything stored at the lake house. Do not delete messages. Do not move money." "You sound like a stranger." "I sound like someone who understands what records mean." "Natalie, please." I waited. She whispered, "Is he going to leave me?" The question surprised me, not because she feared it, because after everything, she still believed Daniel was the center of the emergency. "I don't know." "Did he ever say anything to you about Northbridge?" "No." "About Caleb?" "Only that he had a cousin named Caleb." "I thought the lake house money came from a private investment." "Ask your attorney." "Stop saying that." "I cannot advise you." "You're my sister. And my name was used to approve payments connected to your house." Her crying stopped. The silence became hard. "I didn't do that." "I did not say you did." "You think I'm like him." "I think you signed documents." "Because Dad and Daniel told me to." "Then you need to understand what you signed." She inhaled sharply. "You always wanted this." I felt the old family story reach through the phone. Jealous, suspicious, bitter, waiting for everyone to fail. "No," I said. "I wanted none of it. You wanted to be right about us. I was right about you before any of these transactions existed. That is not fair. Fair stopped being useful a long time ago." She ended the call. At 4:12, Dad emailed Marcus to approve the independent audit. At 4:29, company counsel sent a preservation notice to all senior staff. At 5:03, Daniel's company email account attempted to delete more than 3,000 messages. The deletion failed because the preservation hold had already been activated. At 5:17, a system administrator tried to disable the audit log. That attempt came from Daniel's laptop. At 5:44, the laptop disconnected from the company network. At 6:10, Lauren called Dad to say Daniel's passport was gone. His personal laptop was gone. 2 watches were missing. So was a black document case he kept in their home office. At 6:31, Dad called me. He ran. "We do not know that. His phone is off. Tell counsel." He took files. "What files?" "Loan documents. Tax records." "I don't know." "Tell counsel now." "I need you to come home." "No." "Natalie, my firm is conducting a review. I cannot arrive as your daughter and start searching the house. You can help Lauren. She needs a lawyer. You are her sister." That did not matter when she sat beside him at Bellini's. Dad went silent. I closed my eyes. The sentence had come from pain. It was true, but truth did not always need to be used at the sharpest possible moment. I softened my voice. I will help preserve the records through the proper process. I will not pretend this is a family misunderstanding. He breathed out. Your mother says you're enjoying this. Mom has never known the difference between my calm and my cruelty. She is scared. So am I. Another silence. Then Dad said, I should have stopped it. The words were quiet. Too late. But honest. Stopped what? All of it. That is a large answer. I knew Daniel was getting too much control. That is not what I meant. I know. He sounded tired. I should have stopped what happened with you. My hand tightened around the phone. 6 years. That was how long it had taken him to name it without calling it business. Yes, I said. I thought it would pass. What would pass? Your anger. Not their betrayal. My anger. Even his honesty had limits. I have to go, I said. Natalie, tell company counsel about the missing documents. I ended the call. The following morning, the bank restricted all new credit. News traveled through Cedar Ridge before lunch. A supplier refused to release 3 truckloads of inventory. 2 delivery contractors stopped work. Employees received messages saying the company was undergoing a routine financial review. Routine. My mother's word. At 9:40, I received the first call from Lauren. At 9:47, the second. By 10:15, there were 6. At 11:02, 11. At 11:36, 17. I counted every one. Then the voice messages began. The first was angry. Call me. The second was frightened. Dad says the bank froze everything. The third was broken. Daniel is gone. I don't know where he is. The fourth arrived at 11:51. Please, Natalie. He's gone. Dad could lose the house. I don't know what I signed. The text came 1 minute later. Please come home. I sat at my desk and looked at the words. Years earlier, I had waited for someone to follow me out of Bellini's. No one did. Now they wanted me to return because the room had become impossible to manage without me. Evelyn entered my office. She closed the door. You heard? I nodded. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for Monday, she said. Who will attend? Your parents. So Lauren, outside counsel, the bank, the company's insurer, and the restructuring advisor. Daniel? He has been notified through counsel. Do we know where he is? His attorney contacted the company this morning. He has an attorney. He does now. I looked at the brown folder on my desk. Evelyn followed my eyes. What's in that one? The beginning. Bring it. Why? Because historical conduct matters when someone claims recent events came from nowhere. I touched the coffee-stained corner. This is personal. Some of it. The Columbus receipt, salary forms, seating plans. Leave out what is not relevant. I opened the folder. The receipt was relevant. It showed an early personal expense reimbursed by the company. The salary authorization showed Lauren's role had been created without normal controls. The old vendor approvals showed how Daniel's signature appeared before the new entities existed. The seating chart was not relevant. Neither was the anniversary photograph. Neither was my resignation. I began separating the papers. Evelyn watched me. You don't have to prove what they did to you in that room. I know. Do you? I looked at her. She sat across from me. Your job is not to make them admit every injury, she said. Your job is to make the financial record impossible to deny. I nodded. Truth is a scalpel, she continued, not a hammer. I placed the seating chart back inside the folder. The board meeting was scheduled for Monday at 8 in the morning. Cedar Ridge was 78 miles away from Columbus, the same drive I had made during college. I left at 5:42. The sky was still dark. At 6:18, I passed the rest stop with the vending machine that sometimes gave 2 bottles of water. At 6:51, I passed the exit for Franklin State. At 7:26, the Brooks Home Furnishings sign appeared above the trees. One corner of the B was still damaged. 6 years. No one had fixed it. I parked near the employee entrance. My old entrance. The building smelled the same. Wood polish, cardboard, coffee, a faint chemical scent from the fabric protection spray used in the showroom. There were 9 steps from the back door to the accounting hallway. I counted them. The office door that had once held my name now read Finance Operations. Inside, 3 temporary accountants worked at folding tables surrounded by boxes. No one recognized me. That felt like freedom. At 7:48, Marcus arrived with 2 rolling cases of files. Evelyn came behind him. Helena Ortiz from the bank arrived at 7:53 with another bank investigator named Samuel Pike. Company counsel entered at 7:56. At 7:58, Dad walked into the boardroom. He wore a charcoal suit that hung loosely from his shoulders. He looked at me. Natalie. Dad. He seemed to expect more. I had nothing to give him yet. Mom entered at 7:59. She wore navy, pearl earrings, full makeup. Her posture was perfect. Even in crisis, she arrived prepared to be seen. Lauren came in behind her. No makeup. Hair pulled into a loose knot. Her wedding ring was gone. She stopped when she saw me. For a second, we were not executives or witnesses or sisters on opposite sides of a table. We were 2 girls in Grandpa's warehouse. One sparkling, one sensible. Then Mom touched Lauren's arm and guided her toward a chair. At 8 o'clock, company counsel closed the door. At 8:02, he explained that the meeting was confidential and that all documents, devices, and statements were subject to preservation requirements. At 8:05, he confirmed Daniel would attend through video with his attorney. At 8:07, a screen at the end of the room lit up. Daniel appeared from a law office. He wore a dark suit. His hair was trimmed. He looked rested. That angered me more than I expected. Lauren leaned toward the screen. "Where are you?" Her attorney touched her arm. She sat back. Daniel's attorney spoke. "My client is participating voluntarily and reserves all rights." Mom whispered, "This is unbelievable." Helena opened her binder. At 8:11, the bank began. The first issue was debt. Brooks Home Furnishings had reported liabilities of $8.6 million. Verified liabilities were at least $11.9 million. $3.3 million had been omitted, shifted, or classified in ways the bank considered misleading. Dad stared at the screen. Lauren covered her mouth. Mom looked at Daniel. He remained still. At 8:19, Helena displayed the Northbridge payments, invoices, bank transfers, corporate filings, the mailbox address, Caleb Reed's ownership. Daniel's attorney objected to the word undisclosed. Helena responded by showing 3 loan applications where Daniel had certified that the company had no material related party vendors. His signature appeared on each one. Lauren looked at the screen. "You told me Caleb had sold the company." Daniel's eyes moved toward her image on his monitor. "I was advised the relationship did not require disclosure." "By whom?" Helena asked. Daniel's attorney answered, "My client will not speculate." At 8:27, Marcus presented the inventory discrepancies. 214 purchase orders. 73 had no matching warehouse receipt. 31 used Peter Holt's electronic signature after he left the company. 18 were approved under my username. Mom turned toward me. "Did you approve them?" The question was so instinctive, so perfectly her, that no one spoke. Even now, even with the audit log, even after I had been gone for years. Her first movement was to place the weight on me. "No," I said. "Then why is your name there?" Marcus answered. "Because he account was reactivated without Ms. Brooks' knowledge. Mom looked at him. How can you know that? He displayed the user history. My employment ended on December 18th. The account was closed on December 19th. It was reactivated 14 months later at 10:43 p.m. The administrator credentials belonged to an IT manager who reported directly to Daniel. The request originated from Daniel's office computer. Daniel leaned toward his camera. Multiple people used that computer. Samuel Pike spoke for the first time. The request required a verification code sent to your company phone. Daniel looked at his attorney. The attorney wrote something on a pad. Samuel continued. We obtained the authentication record from the software provider under the company's authorization. The verification code was delivered to the device assigned to you. It was entered 41 seconds later. The room became silent. I counted 6 seconds. 7. 8. Lauren whispered. You used her name. Daniel's face remained controlled. I did not personally enter those transactions. You reactivated her account, Lauren said. My attorney has advised me not to answer that characterization. She stared at him. You said the old system copied the names. Daniel looked away. For the first time, the picture cracked in front of her. At 8:34, Marcus presented the related payments. Northbridge transferred $290,000 to a consulting company controlled by Daniel. That company contributed $180,000 toward the lake house purchase. Another vendor paid $76,000 toward Daniel's personal credit cards. The company had paid for trips to Miami, Vancouver, and Napa as supplier meetings. No suppliers attended. Lauren appeared in photographs from all 3 trips, her face drained of color. I thought those were bonuses. Were they documented as bonuses? Marcus asked. No. Did you report them as compensation? Her attorney answered. She is not responding to tax questions today. Mom looked at Lauren. You said Daniel paid for those. He told me he did. Mom turned toward the screen. You told us you were doing well. Daniel's expression finally shifted. I saw impatience, not shame, not fear. Irritation that the people who had enjoyed the benefits were acting surprised. I increased company revenue for 5 years, he said. Everyone in that room benefited. Helena looked at him. Revenue is not the same as cash. I remembered his words in my office. Marketing creates new money. Accounting protects what already exists. Now the bank officer was explaining the difference. Daniel continued. The company was overextended before any of these transactions. Dad looked up. That's a lie. We opened showrooms based on your approval, based on reports you prepared. You signed them. Dad's mouth closed. Daniel had found the weak point. Dad had signed. Mom had approved expenses. Lauren had guaranteed loans. No one could place every decision on one man without confronting how often they had chosen not to look. At 8:42, Marcus showed the internal emails. One from Daniel to the finance manager. Use N. Brooks for the transfer. It carries historical approval authority. Another. Do not route through Richard. He asks too many questions when totals exceed $100K. Another. Lauren will sign. Send only the signature page. Lauren made a sound. Small. Almost a gasp. Her attorney placed a hand over the printed document before her, but she pulled it away and read the email herself. Send only the signature page, she repeated. Daniel's attorney said, We dispute the context. Lauren looked at the screen. You told me those were event contracts. I explained the financing structure. No, you gave me pages with sticky notes. You are an officer of the company. You had a duty to read them. The words were cruel. They were also true. Lauren looked down. Mom reached toward her. Lauren moved her arm away. At 8:49, Helena presented the loan guarantees. Dad's home secured $2 million. The lake house secured $800,000. The company's inventory secured another line that had been drawn almost to its limit. Dad stared at the document. I signed a renewal. You signed a new guarantee, company counsel said. No. He leaned closer. That is not the page I saw. Marcus placed two versions side by side. One was the document Dad remembered. One was the executed copy. The signature page was the same. The terms above it were different. Dad's face went gray. Someone switched the page. Daniel's attorney spoke. There is no evidence my client altered that document. Samuel Pike opened another file. Security footage from the executive office shows Mr. Reed scanning separate signature pages on the date the guarantee was submitted. The screen changed. Grainy black and white video. Daniel at the copy machine. A stack of papers. He removed one page, placed another beneath it, scanned both. The timestamp appeared in the corner, 9:14 p.m. Daniel watched himself on the screen. His face did not move. Mom whispered, "Turn it off." No one did. The footage continued for 32 seconds. At the end, Daniel placed the original document into the shred bin. Dad stood so quickly his chair struck the wall. "You forged my guarantee." Company counsel raised one hand. "Richard, sit down. You put my house against your debt." "Sit down." Dad remained standing. Daniel's attorney muted the video connection. The screen still showed Daniel speaking to someone we could not hear. His mouth moved quickly. His hand cut through the air. He was no longer composed. He was breaking where we could see him. At 8:54, the connection unmuted. His attorney spoke. "My client will not answer further questions regarding the guarantee." Dad sat. His hands shook. I had seen my father angry. I had seen him tired. I had never seen him afraid of his own signature. At 9:01, Marcus turned to the marketing foundation. Mom straightened. The foundation had received $640,000 from the company over 4 years. Some funded legitimate charity events, some did not. There were clothing purchases, spa charges, hotel suites, private dining, a $27,000 anniversary celebration listed as donor development. Mom looked at the page. That dinner was for company relationships. 14 family members attended, Marcus said. My parents' anniversary dinner. Bellinis, the cream dress, the empty chair. The night they announced Lauren and Daniel, the company had paid for it. Mom looked at me. For the first time, something like shame crossed her face. It vanished quickly. Your father approved it. Dad stared at her. I did not know the company paid. You told me to arrange the dinner. That is not the same thing. You never asked what anything cost. Their marriage began unraveling in small sentences. Not screaming. Accounting. At 9:05, Marcus placed the Columbus restaurant receipt on the screen. The copy from my brown folder. Dinner with Daniel. Personal discussion. Company reimbursement approved by Daniel. Mom recognized it. Lauren did too. That was years ago, Lauren said. Yes, Marcus answered. It matters because it shows personal expenses were being classified as business costs before Northbridge existed. Daniel leaned toward his camera. It was one dinner. I heard his old voice in my apartment. One house, one kiss, one mistake. Small things renamed until the shelf broke. Marcus displayed 3 more receipts from that year. Hotel rooms, wine, weekend travel, all listed as vendor development. The total was only $4,804, small compared with millions. But the pattern was there, the beginning. Grandpa's folder had preserved it. At 9:12, Helena explained the bank's position. The company's credit line would remain frozen. An independent restructuring officer would need to control cash. Related party vendors would be suspended. Insurance carriers and appropriate authorities would be notified. The board would have to decide whether Daniel and Lauren remained officers during the investigation. Lauren looked up. Why me? Her attorney whispered something. She ignored him. I did not create those vendors. No, Helena said. But you signed guarantees and certifications. I didn't understand them. That may affect responsibility. It does not erase the signature. Lauren turned to me. Natalie. Her voice was barely audible. Tell them. I looked at her. Tell them. I'm not good with numbers. No one moved. She continued. You know that. You've always known that. You held an officer title. Because Mom wanted me to. Mom flinched. Lauren pointed toward Daniel's image. He gave me the pages. He told me where to sign. Daniel's attorney said, Ms. Reed should direct statements through counsel. She stood. I trusted my husband. Daniel's face tightened. And I trusted you to read documents before signing them. She stared at him. You used me. He gave a short laugh. You enjoyed every house, every trip, every photograph. Lauren's face folded. Not prettily. Not the clean tears she had used in the office years earlier. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Mom stood and wrapped an arm around her. Lauren pushed her away. Stop. Mom froze. You put me beside him, Lauren said. Lauren? You kept saying we were perfect together. This is not the time. You told me Natalie made him feel small. The room went still. Mom glanced at me. Lauren continued. You said he needed someone who believed in him. I was trying to support you. You were arranging us. Mom's face hardened. Do not blame me for your marriage. Why not? You blamed Natalie for hers before it even happened. There are moments when a family finally says the truth, but not because everyone becomes brave. Sometimes the structure is simply too damaged to hold the lie. Lauren looked at me across the table. Her face was wet. I'm sorry, Mom whispered. Not here. Lauren turned toward her. Where, Mom? Where were we supposed to say any of this? You made every room about how we looked inside it. My mother's lips parted. No answer came. For anyone who has spent years being told to preserve a family image while everyone else damaged the truth behind it, put one word in the comments: chair. Mine had been moved so many times that I once believed I had no place at the table. But the seat they gave you is not the same as the place you earn. Stay, because Lauren's apology was not the end. She was about to ask me for something I could not give. At 9:18, company counsel called a recess. Daniel's video connection remained open, but his camera went dark. Dad left the room with Helena. Mom stood near the window, arms crossed. Lauren sat at the table with both hands over her face. I gathered my papers. She looked up. Can we talk? Your attorney should be present. Not as an officer. She swallowed. As my sister. I looked at Evelyn. She gave one small nod and left the room with Marcus. Lauren's attorney remained near the door. My mother turned from the window. I should be here. No, Lauren said. Mom stared at her. Excuse me? I need you to leave. My mother looked as if Lauren had struck her. She picked up her handbag and walked out without looking at me. The door closed. Lauren and I sat across from each other. The same distance as Daniel and I had sat in my apartment years before. 4 feet, maybe less. She twisted a tissue between her fingers. I didn't know he used your name. I believe you. She looked surprised. I didn't know about the fake shipments. I believe that too. I thought he was good at business. He was good at making growth visible. She wiped her face. What happens to me? I don't know. You do. No, I understand the records. I do not decide the consequences. Will I go to prison? Her attorney stepped forward. We are not discussing possible criminal outcomes without a full review. Lauren ignored him. Natalie, I cannot answer that. What can you answer? I thought for a moment. I can tell you that signing without reading does not make the signature disappear. She closed her eyes. I know. Do you? Yes. Her voice cracked. I know now. She looked toward the dark screen where Daniel had been. I thought being loved meant someone took care of the hard things. I said nothing. She continued. You always knew how everything worked. Mom made that sound ugly. She made it sound unfeminine. Lauren gave a broken laugh. Yes. She made dependence look like trust. I believed her. So did Daniel. Lauren stared at the tissue in her hands. When we first got together, he talked about you all the time. I felt my shoulders tighten. I don't need to hear that. Not like you think. I still don't need it. She nodded. You're right. The silence lasted 12 seconds. Then she said, he was angry at you. For helping him? For knowing he needed help? I looked away. That was not new. But hearing Lauren say it gave the truth a different weight. He said you kept records because you wanted power, she continued. Mom agreed. She said you liked being the only person who understood the money. I kept records because no one else wanted to understand it. I know. No, you know now. She accepted that. Her fingers stopped twisting the tissue, then she leaned forward. There's something I need to ask. I waited. If I cooperate, they will want emails. Yes. Messages between me and Mom. Yes. Personal ones. If they concern company decisions, possibly. Her breathing became shallow. She knew about some of the expenses. How many? I don't know. Then preserve everything. She'll lose the house. Dad's guarantee threatens the house regardless. What about the anniversary payments, the foundation? Lauren. Shaw. E62. That does not alter the transactions. She'll break. I looked through the glass wall at the hallway. Mom stood 10 feet away, speaking to Dad. Her posture remained perfect. She will bend the story before she breaks, I said. Lauren's face tightened. Can you leave some of it out? There it was. The begging promised by 17 missed calls. Not for money. Not yet. For a smaller truth. What do you want left out? The messages where she told me to sign. Those may help you. They hurt her. They also show what happened. What if we give them only Daniel's messages? That would be incomplete. You could say you didn't find the others. Her attorney stepped closer. Lauren, stop speaking. She raised one hand. I'm asking my sister. No, I said. She stared at me. I cannot hide records. You don't understand. I understand exactly. She is our mother. She was our mother when she advised Daniel to leave me. That is not the same as losing a home. You are right. Lauren looked relieved for half a second. Then I continued. It is not the same. This is larger. Employees may have lost retirement earnings. Vendors may have gone unpaid. My name was used to approve false transactions. Your mother's comfort does not come before the record. She'll say I betrayed her. She will. I don't know if I can survive that. You survived betraying me. The words landed hard. Lauren lowered her eyes. I could have stopped there. I could have let the sentence punish her. Instead, I took a breath. This is not revenge, I said. I'm not asking you to expose private messages because I want her humiliated. I'm telling you not to destroy evidence. Lauren began crying again. I'm sorry. For which part? All of it. That is too large to answer. For Daniel. For the dinner. For letting Mom turn you into the problem. For acting like your work was easy because you made it look easy. I listened. An apology does not become false because it arrives late. It also does not become enough. I believed you were jealous of me, she said. I was jealous sometimes. She looked up. The admission surprised her. I was jealous that people celebrated you for entering rooms I had prepared. Her face crumpled. I never thought of it that way. I know. I thought you liked being behind the scenes. I liked the work. I did not like being erased. She nodded slowly, then asked, What do I do? Tell the truth. That's all? No, it's the beginning. Will you help me? I will not protect you from what you signed. Her eyes dropped. But I will explain the systems you were never taught. I will help your attorney understand which documents were altered and which ones you signed in full. I will make sure the review separates carelessness from deliberate fraud. She looked at me. Why? Because accuracy matters in both directions. That was the mercy I could offer. Not a lie, not rescue. Precision. Lauren wiped her face. What about the employees? That is what matters next. At 9:41, the meeting resumed. At 9:44, the restructuring advisor presented a 13-week cash forecast. Without new credit, the company would run out of operating cash in 19 days. Payroll could be met once, maybe twice. Inventory orders would have to stop. 2 showrooms needed immediate closure. The lake house would likely be sold. Executive vehicles would be surrendered. The foundation accounts would be frozen pending review. Mom objected to the foundation. It supports community programs. Company counsel replied, it also paid personal expenses. They were related to donor relationships. Spa treatments? Mom looked at Dad. He did not defend her. At 9:58, Dad asked what would save the company. The restructuring advisor listed conditions: independent control of cash, sale of non-essential assets, closure of unprofitable stores, cooperation with the bank and insurers, immediate removal of Daniel from all authority, temporary leave for Lauren and Cynthia. Dad looked at Mom. Mom stared straight ahead. Why me? She asked. Because the foundation transactions require review. This is Natalie's influence. The room went silent. There it was, the old story reaching for one final arrangement. Mom turned toward me. You have wanted control of this company since you were a child. I looked at her. No. You kept files on everyone. I kept records. You waited years for us to need you. I built a life where you could not use me. You came back the moment there was blood in the water. Evelyn shifted beside me. I raised one hand slightly. She remained quiet. Mom continued. You think this proves you should have been standing beside Daniel? I looked at the dark video screen. No. You were always jealous of Lauren. I was hurt by what all of you did. You left. You pushed. You made a spectacle at our anniversary. I resigned quietly. You humiliated your sister. You announced her relationship with my boyfriend over a company-paid dinner. Mom's face changed. The truth sounded uglier without her labels. I opened Grandpa's brown folder and removed the old photograph from the holiday dinner. I had not planned to use it. It was not financial evidence, but it was family evidence. I placed it on the table. Lauren and Daniel stood in the center. Mom beside them, Dad near the edge. I stood apart. Do you remember what you told me? I asked. Mom's jaw tightened. I have no idea. You said some people are meant to support the picture, not stand in it. She looked at the photograph. That was management advice. No, it was a family rule. Natalie, you repeated it until I believed my value depended on making everyone else look stable. Dad lowered his eyes. Lauren stared at the photograph. I continued. But pictures do not hold up companies. Records do. Employees do. Honest work does. Mom folded her arms. You always need the last word. No, I need my name removed from false approvals. I picked up the photograph. And I need you to understand this. Some people are not meant to support the picture. Some people are expected to hold it up so everyone else can pretend the wall is not cracking. I placed the photograph back into the folder. I am done holding it. No one answered. The cruel line had belonged to my mother for years. In that room, I returned it to her without raising my voice. At 10:11, the board voted. Dad supported the restructuring plan. Lauren, after speaking with her attorney, voted yes. Mom voted no. Daniel's voting authority was suspended under the company's bylaws pending investigation. The measure passed. At 10:18, Helena confirmed the bank would release limited funds for payroll only after the restructuring officer took control. At 10:23, I offered our firm's help, verifying employee deductions and unpaid vendor balances, not as a daughter, as an accountant. At 10:31, the meeting ended. Daniel's screen went dark without him saying goodbye. Mom stood immediately. She gathered her bag, her papers, and her phone. Dad touched her arm. She pulled away. At the door, she turned toward me. "You destroyed this family." Lauren flinched. Dad looked at the floor. I held my mother's eyes. "No, I documented what the family did." She left. Dad remained near the table. For several seconds, he watched the closed door. Then he looked at me. I knew enough to ask questions. I waited. He swallowed. I chose not to. It was the honest beat he owed me years earlier. It landed too late, but it landed. "I'm sorry," he said. I did not tell him it was all right. It was not. "I believe you are sorry," I said. His eyes filled. That was all I could give him. The investigation lasted 11 months. Consequences did not fall in one dramatic wave. They arrived in packets. A registered letter, a frozen account, a surrendered vehicle, a court filing, a closed showroom, a newspaper story that used the phrase financial irregularities. The two newest Brooks locations closed first. The fifth showroom, the one I had warned Dad not to open, was sold to a Fluids Ring company. The sixth became a medical supply warehouse. The original Cedar Ridge showroom remained open under the restructuring officer. 39 employees kept their jobs. 24 lost theirs. That number mattered more than every family argument. Our firm reviewed the retirement accounts. All missing employee contributions had eventually been deposited, but some had been late enough to cause lost earnings and penalties. The company restored the difference. Executive bonuses were canceled. The lake house sold for $680,000. Most of the proceeds went to the bank. Lauren surrendered her company vehicle and moved into a 2-bedroom rental near the original showroom. She cooperated. Fully, as far as I could tell. Her messages showed that Daniel had repeatedly told her not to read full contracts because the language would only confuse her. They also showed that Mom had encouraged her to sign quickly to avoid appearing difficult. That did not erase Lauren's responsibility. It clarified it. She faced civil penalties, lost her officer position, and agreed to repay part of the personal benefits she had received. She was not charged with creating the vendor scheme. Daniel was. Investigators traced deleted emails, altered guarantees, false invoices, and wire transfers across 4 accounts. Caleb Reed cooperated before Daniel did. That decision mattered. 8 months after the board meeting, Daniel accepted a plea agreement involving financial fraud and falsified records. I did not attend the hearing. I read the public filing once, then closed it. His sentence did not repair my name. It did not return employee jobs. It did not make our relationship true. Lawful consequences are not magic. They create boundaries. Sometimes that is enough. Mom was never charged. The foundation repaid personal expenses and penalties. She resigned from every board and charity committee she had used to build the family image. For months, she told people that a hostile audit had destroyed the company. Cedar Ridge repeated the story. Some believed her. Others had worked with me long enough to know better. I did not correct everyone. That surprised me. Years earlier, I had wanted the whole town to understand what they did. By the time the truth became public, I no longer needed strangers to arrange my memory correctly. The record existed. That was enough. Dad and Mom sold their house, not because I forced them, because the guarantee Daniel altered had still been signed, and the company needed a settlement with the bank. Their attorney negotiated enough protection for them to buy a small condominium. Dad moved there. Mom did not. She rented an apartment near her sister in Florida. They did not formally divorce, but they stopped living like married people. 35 years displayed at Bellini's ended in separate estates and careful phone calls. Dad began working 3 mornings a week at the original showroom under the restructuring officer. No title, no private office. He helped customers measure doorways and choose furniture that would fit. The work Grandpa had done. The first time I saw him there, he was carrying a dining chair toward an older couple's truck. He placed it carefully in the bed and tied it down himself. He looked up and saw me. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he walked over. "You came." Marcus needed signatures. Dad nodded. He looked thinner. "How is Columbus?" "Good." "How is Evelyn?" "Still precise." He smiled faintly. "I'm glad you found someone who saw what you could do." The sentence hurt. Not because it was wrong, because he knew he had not. "I wish you had," I said. "So do I." He looked toward the warehouse. "I found something of your grandfather's." He led me to the back room. The old workbench stood against the wall beneath a sheet of plastic. Dad pulled it away. The wood was scarred. One leg had been repaired with a metal brace. Grandpa's pencil marks remained along the edge. Measurements, prices, order numbers. "I was going to throw it out during the renovation," Dad said. "Then I thought you might want it." I ran my fingers over the surface. 22 steps from the workbench to the old records cabinet. I still remembered. "Yes," I said. "I want it." He helped me load it into a rented van. We spoke little. At the end, he stood beside the open door. "Natalie." I looked at him. "When your mother said you destroyed the family, I should have answered. Yes. I was still protecting her. Yes. I don't know why. You were used to it." He nodded. "Maybe." I closed the van door. Being used to something is not the same as being innocent. "I know." He did. At least then. I did not forgive him in one moment. There was no scene where we hugged and the years disappeared. He called. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I did not. He apologized without asking me to comfort him. That helped. Lauren took longer. After the investigation ended, she found work at a small interior design studio in Dayton. Entry level. No officer title, no company car. She scheduled appointments, prepared sample boards, and learned software she had once expected assistants to use. She sent me a photograph of her first completed project. A waiting room for a pediatric clinic. Blue chairs, wooden shelves, a small reading corner. Her message said, "I did the budget myself." I stared at the words, then answered, "Check the delivery surcharge before final approval." She replied, "Already did." That was the beginning of something, not closeness. Not yet. A narrow bridge, built from honest sentences. A year after the board meeting, Lauren asked to meet for coffee. We chose a cafe halfway between Columbus and Dayton. She arrived early. That was new. She wore a simple gray sweater, no diamond ring, no polished performance. She carried an envelope. Inside was a check for 4,800 tawananwal. The total of the early personal expenses from the year she and Daniel began seeing each other. "What is this?" I asked. "I know it doesn't go to you." "No. The company already received repayment through the settlement." "Yes." "I thought maybe it should go to the employees' hardship fund." The restructuring officer had created one for workers affected by the store closures. "That would be appropriate." She nodded. "I wanted you to see it." "Why?" "Because the Columbus dinner was the first receipt you kept." I looked at her. She had remembered. "Mom told me the folder proved you were dangerous," Lauren said. She believed records were a tax. I did too. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. "I've been seeing a counselor." I waited. She gave a small smile. "I know you don't like statements without a point." "I didn't say that." "You were thinking it." I almost smiled. She continued. "I'm learning that Mom made us compete before we knew what competition was." "That does not excuse what you did." "I know." "And Daniel did not force you to date him." "I know." "You had choices." "I know." The third answer was quiet. No defense. No clean tears. "I loved winning," she said. "I just never asked what the prize cost." That was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. I folded the check back into the envelope. I'll make sure the fund receives it. Thank you. We sat in silence. People moved around us. Cups touched saucers. Milk steamed behind the counter. A child dropped a spoon. Ordinary sounds. Lauren looked at me. Do you hate me? No. She breathed out. Do you forgive me? Not completely. Her eyes filled. She nodded. I continued. But I no longer build my day around what you did. She wiped one tear. That sounds better than forgiveness. It is different. We finished our coffee. When we left, she hugged me. I stood still for a second, then placed one arm around her. A mercy beat is not surrender. It is the decision to stop using someone's worst act as permission to become cruel. I did not invite Lauren back into every room. I did not share private parts of my life. I did not pretend trust had returned. I let her earn small things. A returned call, a birthday message, coffee twice a year, a photograph of the clinic waiting room. Boundaries made those moments possible. Without them, mercy would have become another name for being used. For those who have stayed until this point and understand that forgiveness does not require handing someone the same access they once abused, put one final word in the comments: record. A record is not only a list of what others did, it can also be a promise you make to yourself about what you will never accept again. Subscribe and stay for stories where quiet people do not need to shout for the truth to stand. Evelyn and I later opened a small satellite office in Cedar Ridge, not inside the Brooks showroom. Across town, in a renovated brick building that had once been a tool shop, Grandpa's workbench became the front conference table. We kept every scar, every pencil mark, the metal brace on the leg. Visitors often asked whether it was antique. I told them it belonged to a man who believed every business should be able to explain itself. On the wall behind it, I framed his note. Numbers are not cold. They tell you where people put their care. Do not let anyone teach you to doubt what you can prove. Keep the record. I did not frame the holiday photograph. I did not frame the newspaper correction that later identified me as Richard and Cynthia Brooks's daughter. I did not need proof that I belonged to them. I needed proof that I belonged to myself. The original Brooks home furnishing store survived. Smaller, quieter, no television commercials, no gala dinners, no lake house. The damaged bee above the loading dock was finally repaired. Dad sent me a photograph the day it happened. All he wrote was, "Took long enough." I answered, "Yes." 2 letters. Enough. Mom has never apologized. She sends cards at Christmas. They contain long messages about healing, family, and releasing the past. She does not name what happened. I no longer respond to sentences that ask for forgiveness without making room for truth. That is my boundary. Maybe one day she will understand it. Maybe she will not. Her understanding is no longer required for my peace. People sometimes ask whether my parents gave my boyfriend to my sister. They could not give away a person who had no will of his own. Daniel chose. Lauren chose. My parents encouraged, arranged, rewarded, and protected those choices, and I chose too. I chose to stop holding up the picture. I chose to leave the chair they moved for me. I chose to build a table where no one had to become smaller so someone else could feel important. That is the part of the story I keep. Not the cream dress, not the green tie, not the 17 missed calls. The choice. Fine used to be the word we used for everything that was no longer love. Now, when someone asks how I am, I do not say fine, I tell the truth. I am steady. I am respected. I am no longer standing behind anyone, and that is my story. Tell me where you are watching from and whether you believe trust can be rebuilt after a family betrayal like this. Subscribe. If you want more stories about people who choose dignity, evidence, and peace over shouting. The truth does not need the best seat in the picture. It only needs one person willing to stop holding the lie in place.